this meeting to order. It's a regular meeting of the City Council of Fort Walton Beach on Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. If you have a cell phone, if you please turn it off or put it on vibrate, I really appreciate that. And then if you'll stand, please, Pastor Roger Pedro from First Christian Church will lead us in an invocation, and then she'll remain standing for the pledge of allegiance. Reverend Pedro.
May we pray. Loving God, you come with us tonight to be with us, to lead dialogue, share ideas, and may your inspiration be with our leaders here who have a great responsibility. We thank you for this beautiful, wonderful community in which we live, and the recognitions I'm sure will be a blessing to our community. Thank you once again for loving us and for being with us in all the aspects of life that we face. And I pray for your wisdom and discernment for our leaders tonight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Pedro.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor, I have a quick point of order before y'all get started, if I may.
Well, sir, you're kind of right in the middle of our starting, but you're already in. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I waited until the pledge, but I just wanted to remind you of our little dust up coming up here in a couple of weeks, and just wanted to invite everybody to make sure you come on down to the landing. We got a big thing planned, and I'm sure you and I, although I'll try and talk you out of the city on Friday, I have a feeling you're going to disagree, and we'll come back on Saturday. Does that sound like a plan?
We look forward to having you come back. You're all really well dressed tonight. You don't look like scoundrels we can't have tonight.
Well, we tried. Thank you. I just wanted to say, I didn't mean to interrupt anything. Thank you. One of these years. Thank you. Did you get that picture of it? Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank
Well, after that interruption, if we can get a motion to the agenda.
Mayor, move for approval of the agenda.
Been moved by Councilman Alvarado and second by Councilwoman DeBerry to approve the agenda as presented. Further comment? Council, please vote. Does pass unanimously. Thank you, Council. I'm going to come down on the floor. I've got two proclamations to make and some fabulous recognition. So, if you'll allow me, I'm coming down there. All right, this is a proclamation for our public safety telecommunications folks here in the city. Whereas public safety telecommunicators are an essential link in the public safety chain, as vital to the mission of preserving lives and protecting property as the police officers who arrive at the scenes of emergencies. And whereas the city's police city's police officers are dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained by the Public Safety Communications officers of the Fort Walton Beach Police Department's Communications Center, who send out notifications as the crisis evolves in real time. Whereas these officers are on-scene heroes because they are the first point of contact when law enforcement emergencies arise. And each officer consistently sustains calmness and composure and demonstrates compassion, empathy, responsibility, and professionalism with every call they answer. Whereas these officers also contribute significantly to the apprehension of lawbreakers, which promotes safety in our city, and this is a major component of quality of life. Whereas the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials, the APCO, annually distinguishes the second week in April to recognize telecommunicators who help serve and protect in times of personal and national crisis. Now there, I, Dick Rynerson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Fort Walton Beach, do hereby proclaim April 14th through the 20th, which is already passed, as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, and commend the men and women of the Fort Walton Beach Police Department's Communications Center for their professionalism, commitment to keeping our citizens and our city safe. Do we have, I see Maureen's here, is there anyone else from the telecommunicators here? Ms. Maureen, will you accept this on behalf of your fellow communicators? Thank you very much. And would you like to say something on their behalf?
Oh, sure. I wasn't expecting to do that. Unfortunately, our supervisor, Kara, was not able to make it. But I'm sure she would really say thank you so much for this. It means a lot. The job done in there is difficult. It's very stressful. But the people in there who work it do it because they want to help others. So I think they would also want to say thank you very much, and it's greatly appreciated.
Thank you. I know it's a labor of love. My second proclamation is, whereas fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that is approximately 50 times more potent than heroin, and 100 times more potent than morphine. Just 2 milligrams, the equivalent of a few grains of salt, can kill a person. Whereas fentanyl is the greatest threat to Americans today. It kills more Americans between the ages of 18 to 45 than terrorism, car accidents, or cancer. It kills nearly 200 Americans every day. Whereas last year, over 70,000 Americans fatally overdosed on illegally made fentanyl. Fentanyl is now found in fake pills and many street drugs, but users are often unaware that their drugs contain this potent opioid. Whereas this is an urgent public health crisis that puts all of us and our loved ones at risk. We all must play a role in preventing further tragedies. And whereas this is the 3rd year for National Fentanyl Awareness Day to bring together individuals, parents, teachers, corporations, influencers, community groups, and government entities to help put an end to this emergency. Now therefore, I, Dick Rynerson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Fort Walton Beach, do hereby proclaim May 7th, 2024 as National Fentanyl Awareness Day, and commend the men and women of the Fort Walton Beach Police Department, the emergency medical personnel, and the health department for their professionalism and commitment in eliminating the fentanyl crises. In witness whereof, I am here to set forth my hand. Chief Page, will you accept this?
Yes.
Thank you, Chief, for all your department does to work this crisis.
Thank you, Mayor. We'd just like to thank you for this proclamation for Fentanyl Awareness Day. To put it in context, the Mayor gave out some really good stats, but to really get the message home, we fought the Korean and Vietnam War over a 20-year period. There were about 37,000 troops that were lost during the Korean War and about 59,000 that were lost during the Vietnam War, which is under 100,000. Every 12-month period for the last 3 years, we've had over 100,000 overdose deaths. That is like fighting both of those wars every single year on our street. And 70,000 of them, as you said, Mayor, come directly from fentanyl. So we're doing everything we can to eradicate the fentanyl and drug overdoses from our streets. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Ms. Hansberry, will you come up? We're gonna make an award to one of your friends. Frederick Thomas. Come forward, please. years of dedicated service to the Fort Walton Beach Housing Authority Board. And I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to let Ms. Sansbury speak a little bit as well. Your steadfast commitment and unwavering dedication have significantly contributed to the betterment of our community. Your visionary leadership, guidance, and tireless efforts have played a pivotal role in shaping policies, fostering inclusivity, and ensuring the provision of quality housing for all. Your tenure of 35 years exemplifies an exceptional commitment to public service and sets a standard of excellence for others to follow. Your passion for improving the lives of residents and your deep-rooted compassion have left an indelible mark on our community. It's with deep gratitude we extend this certificate as a token of our appreciation for your outstanding service, unwavering dedication, and invaluable contributions to the Fort Walton Beach Housing Authority Board. And I'm going to give Ms. Sansbury the mic so she may say some more, and I'll hand you your certificate.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say it's a pleasure to have someone to serve on the board that long and to bring so much to the community. I can tell you that Soundside would not be in existence without Mr. Thomas' help. I would call and he would go over and check things out for me. So his presence there is tremendously appreciated. We will continue to appreciate everything that he has done over these past 35 years. He was there before me. So I've been there 30. So, so I just want to say thank you for all the service, for all the hard work that you have done for the Housing Authority for these last 35 plus years. I would also like to bring up the Board of Commissioners, and we do have a small token, and his family, please.
Please come forward.
And I want to say thank you to the mayor and the council, because without y'all appointing him, this would not exist. So I really want to say thank you for that as well.
You got the whole board here.
Yeah, I got the whole board.
Hey.
The board here.
They all came up.
Everybody squeeze in a little tighter. Right here. And one more. Thank you.
We also would like to present you. Bernard told me don't call it a pen.
My history.
As well. And we appreciate you and thank you.
What a fun night. Kathleen Platt, are you here? Yes, you are. Hey, Kathleen. Kathleen is our ACE Award winner for Choctaw High School, and I feel a little deja vu here. I know your family very, very well, and they were Choctaw graduates as well, but you're carrying on the family tradition. Kathleen is the Choctaw High School ACE Award recipient for the month of April. She has a GPA of 4.6 and an SAT score of 1,400. She is a student of the pre-IB, AP, and dual enrollment programs. She has achieved the N.T. Mitchell Academic Honors Award, the AP Scholar Award, and the Choctaw High School Girls Weightlifting Academic Achievement Award. She is a member of the traditional and Olympic lifters girls weightlifting team and has art pieces in the Okaloosa County K-12 Student Art Show and placed first, second again, and fourth. Kathleen has served her community as a team manager of the Pryor Middle School golf team in link crew training and freshman orientation, hallway decorating and pumping, and beach cleanup. She has work experience as a grocery bagger and a babysitter. She is a member of the National Honor Society, the secretary of Mu Alpha Theta, the spirit coordinator of Art Honor, and a member of the link crew, Science Honor, Global Perspectives Club, Environmental Defense Club, and Animal Club. Congratulations, and we look forward to all of your future achievements. And would you please tell us what's going to happen right after graduation?
So after I graduate, I'm going to go to the University of Florida. I'm going to major in aerospace engineering, and after I want to go into the Air Force as an officer.
Fantastic. And this is for you, and a little pin there so you can remember Fort Walton Beach in your travels. And I will say this, Air Force career will be wonderful, but with your major, when you're finished with that, come see me, because I'll have a job for you. Thank you. And now Alexander Porter. Hey, Mr. Porter, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well.
Alex is a Fort Walton Beach High School ACE Award winner for the month of April. He has a GPA of 4.5 and ranks number 11 in your class. Alex's academic honors include a Viking Scholar, an N.T. Mitchell Academic Honors Award winner, and he possesses free pre-engineering industrial certifications. Alex is an Eagle Scout and a percussionist in the marching and concert bands at Fort Walton Beach High School. Alex also had a hand in the Village Baptist Church media team and Destin's first United Methodist Church youth band. Alex has contributed to the community by assisting in sand dune preservation, beach cleanup, and osprey nest building at Henderson State Park. Alex has work experience at SunQuest Beach Weddings and Sun Venture Cruises. Alex's notable adventures in the Boy Scouts include BSA Alaska High Adventure Camp and BSA Philmont Scout Ranch in New Mexico. Alex is a member of the National Honor Society, the Science National Honor Society, and the Boy Scouts of America. We congratulate you on your achievements and wish you the very best in all your future endeavors. And here is your certificate, sir, and a pin so you'll remember Fort Walton Beach and all your travels. And tell us a little bit about what's next.
After high school, I'm going to go to the University of Florida and major in mechanical engineering, and I will be doing Air Force ROTC and hopefully become a pilot in the United States Air Force.
Fantastic. We wish you the very best. Thank you. Thank you. Wow, some great young people here tonight. That was wonderful. All right, looks like we're up to item number 7, consent agenda. Anyone want to make a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Jeter, second by Councilman Meade to approve the consent agenda as presented. Further comment? Comment? Council, please vote. Does pass unanimously. Thank you, Council. Now it's time for Mayor and Council comments, and we're going to start this evening with Mr. Berry. You're first.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Peters, for working with the pickleball courts and fence. They really appreciate that. And the bathrooms are well on their way, and they're very, very appreciative of that. And thank you for all of you, the staff, especially the code enforcement board and the LPA. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Jeter.
I will save mine for later.
All right. Mr. Meade.
Save mine for later as well.
Well, all right. Mr. Schmidt.
I'm good at the moment, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Mr. Smith.
When these ACE Award winners come up here and you announce off all their accolades, I feel like, why the heck am I even sitting up here? But then I remember, because all of them say that they're going to go to the University of Florida.
Oh.
So that's why I'm sitting up. That's all I got, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Mr. Walker.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I do have a couple of things, 3 things actually. One, today is my oldest son's birthday, and I'd like to wish Jonathan, if he's watching or he tunes in, happy birthday. 23 for him.
All right. Happy birthday.
And the other reason I want to choose to speak now is because one of the people that I want to, citizen and service members here in the audience, and I want to address this. Jeff, this is regarding the text I sent yesterday for the policy and procedures manuals on the rec center. Have you found one?
Well, as I mentioned to you yesterday, we've got a fee structure, a fee schedule that's brought forth every year in the budget process and throughout the year with updates. So we operate off of that. The policies and the rental is based on our recreation leagues, tournament play, outside organizations that want to rent. So it's really based on, we operate off, what used to be a kind of a hard paper calendar is now a software program, RecDesk, that we use, that the rec staff uses to schedule league play, tournament play, rentals, everything like that.
Thank you. I do find it just concerning, and I'll get into it in just a minute on what concerns me about not having a policy manual over there. In my text, I asked, you were the director over there for how long?
18 years.
Was there ever a lawsuit brought against the rec center for discrimination or allegations of pay to play that you can recall? Okay. Ms. Cobb, if one alleges that one was being treated differently and while trying to schedule a field or a court, and they were able to show that they were treated differently, what is the value of a policy manual in a government organization and ensuring that people are treated the same and fairly when they approach to reserve a field, the policies and procedures to do that?
Well, if you have a written policy, it's helpful because you can then show that your policies were followed. And if you have it in writing, it's just something that you can point to in court.
Thank you. We have in the audience a Major Carl Oser. Mr. Oser, I may call on you for questions in just a minute, but thank you for appearing here tonight. Jeff, are you aware that Major Oser has hired 2 attorneys to address the issues that he's had with scheduling field time there at courts?
I'll tell you the background. I received a call a year ago, a phone call from an attorney asking the questions of rentals, and it was related to Recreation After Dark, a new social sports league, in trying to rent fields with Emerald Coast Social Sports League as well. At the time, the city recreation department reached out about 13 or 14 years ago, started a Waka Kickball League. It was the first one trying to I shouldn't say renovate, kind of pick up our adult sports and get more participation, so we kind of jumped into the social sport act of it. From that point, branched off into kickball, dodgeball, volleyball, now pickleball. So I told the attorney a year ago, I said, we don't have a problem, the city doesn't have a problem renting fields out on availability, but we don't want to do the same sport at the same time. The Emerald Coast Social Sports, that's been a partner with the city for 14 years, who coaches in our Little League, sponsors teams, come out and does landscaping projects. If they're doing a kickball league, we would recommend they not do a kickball league, do dodgeball or t-ball or something like that. So, and at the time, the gentleman I spoke to said, okay, that makes sense, that sounds good. So that's what we've gone with from them. It's 2 organizations trying to do the same operation, not doing it at the same time. That's a decision that the recreation department needs to do. We don't want competing sports running against each other at the same time.
Gotcha. You mentioned a partnership, and in the email you sent to Major Oser, you mentioned that partnership. Is that a written partnership, or is it just, what does that partnership mean?
Just an organization that started about 13 or 14 years ago and to help boost our adult sports. And it's come a long way in 14 years. Like I said, coaches on our league, they provide a lot of coaches participate in our leagues, and they volunteer at different whatever's needed, and they rent the fields and play on them, and the city has no issues with the other organization using them. We just prefer that they don't have the same sport at the same time.
Well, and that kind of goes into a little bit of, the concern is that he shows up to do a field. It's been 2 years now. There's been 2 attorneys. So you heard about a year ago, and then there was a second one that came in. You heard from them as well, right?
I've just spoken to one on the phone.
No other communications from the second attorney. So he shows up and he doesn't know what the arrangements are. You reference policies in your email back to him, but is it just a verbal policy amongst the staff that they know how it works when someone shows up? when they can get on the schedule? When could a person show up at the rec center? They want to get there early on the first morning. You know, the first morning, I don't know if it's in person or if it opens up at midnight online, and I don't know that anybody else knows that either, but, you know, this man has been trying to get on the field from the email that he sent to all of us. All council members received it, and then apparently somebody forwarded it to you, and then you singly responded to him. So I'm going to enter your email into the record, so it'll be, and for the public to see as well. Is there a list to sign up on?
I mean, it's different than a tee time that you'd get at the golf course. I mean, the city, the recreation department has various sports throughout the year. Basketball, football, flag football, baseball, soccer. So normally we know, or not normally, we know when these happen. So if somebody wanted to come in and rent all of our baseball fields for a whole bunch of March, we would say we have recreational leagues. If they want to rent a softball field, we have co-ed softball. So you can rent it on maybe a Friday night, but not a Tuesday and a Thursday. So we know, the organization knows how long, what year sports are, what days of the week. And you know, we say a policy, but on the rental form, it's the recreation director that makes the final call on a rental organization, a rental field rental.
And so that's some more I would like to know you. There's two competing entities here, right? We've got two adult leagues that are in the community. And so how does one get prioritized is a question. That could be a policy, for example. I know that in other business interests we conduct, we prioritize citizens that either own the company, that own the organization. Mr. Major has this, Oser has said that he is a citizen taxpayer of it, and do you know if the other owner of the other league is a city resident taxpayer?
The owner of his actual house?
Of the Emerald Coast, yes.
No, I don't believe he's.
So you see what?
I'll say this. So when we have a league, in other words, like I just said, our baseball league, you don't have somebody that comes in and says, I want to rent your fields in March. Well, we have baseball leagues. They're not available without the social sports that we started. The city has no problem with somebody renting a field. We get a calendar for the whole year when all of our sports are. The social sports has been going on for 14 years that the city has. And any rental that comes in, it's just like the Billy Bowlegs events at the landing. Somebody can't come in and say, I want to have the Bowleg, I want to have the landing on the second week in May. We can't Bowlegs in there. Well, did they come in here first to rent it? Well, it's a standing rental that it's the same as our recreation leagues. The fields are available. When the fields are available, they can get a calendar and look at when hey, Thursday or Friday night may be good. Or hey, tennis, you can do tennis or pickleball or volleyball or something like that. Outside of, we don't want two organizations having the same sports at the same time. It doesn't benefit the organization. I mean, we wouldn't have another baseball league having recreation baseball practice at the same time.
It would benefit his organization. I mean, as a citizen taxpayer of this community, it would benefit his. I don't know how it would harm the city, or maybe the other competing. You know, when only one entity has access to the fields and there are adults that are wanting to play and one is not allowed or not able to because of an unwritten policy that two can't, then the other entity benefits by those adults wanting to come sign up with that one entity. I mean, when I spoke to the attorney last year, there's no issues of renting a field, a complex. We just do not want the same sport at the same time. So I mean, we don't want two kickball leagues going on at the same time at the same complex. And at the time, we said, okay, that makes sense. If you want to do kickball right now, that'd be great. If you want to do pickleball, that'd be great. And that's a decision that the recreation department made. And like I said, organization has been going on for 14 years, and it doesn't come to, it's not a first come, first served basis on field rental when we have actual league play going on. Right.
Never had it.
Right, but the Emerald Coast Sports or the athletic, it's not it's just a private entity, right? It's not.
It's a branch of our adult athletics is what we went out looking for 12 years ago, 13 years ago.
but again, no written partnership with them. It's just it's someone who's preferred.
Well, it's not preferred, it's a rental. They rent the facility just like I said, the Bowl Legs group or anybody else, but they rent, there's certain times of the year they do kickball and volleyball and t-ball. And they bowl at the Fort Walton Beach Bowling Alley. They play pickleball. I mean, there's different sports throughout the year.
Well, I met with Major Oster several times, received several of his communications back and forth, and the one that we all received last, he's a major in the Air Force, and you've known of him for a couple of years, and he wrote to us and said that over the last year and a half, he's struggled to figure it out over there. So, I don't know tonight, although I will suggest, and maybe some others will agree, that it sounds as if you have enough information up here on how it all works. And I don't know if Tiffany's here or not, but there needs to be a policy manual in place over there so that if there is someone that's preferred, tell them how to get in there. If someone knows that May 1st you can't, and these teams over here take priority over you, then spell it all out for everyone. Let them look at it, because otherwise they're going to feel that they're being treated differently than someone else who's in there who's not even a city resident, from my understanding. So to have a, and it would be one of those things. I mean, through this year and a half of him trying to figure it out, I'd want us to accommodate a taxpayer, a service member in the community, to come get our fields. And it's just, why is he not getting a field? There's all sorts of reasons it could be out there, but a policy manual that explains it, then when he comes in and goes, oh, I can see on May the 1st is my day. I need to either go get in line, submit my letter, send the email, make the call, be there in person, whatever. Right now, he's running around, and others would be running around like a chicken with their head cut off. They don't know where to go. Oh, sorry, you missed it.
I would recommend him sitting down maybe with the recreation director and say, hey, here's a list of sports we want to do throughout the year, and try and work with the other organizations so they're not doing the same sport at the same time. To my knowledge, I think they did rent the volleyball courts in the next month. I think they got Thursday, Friday, for the last I heard, and the other organization was doing Monday, Tuesday. So, I would recommend them go sit down with the calendar, maybe work with the recreation director.
But if it's without a policy, if it was associated with a policy manual, they could see how to go do that. It's just amazing. But Jeff, I'm in this business, and if someone shows up at one of my properties to rent it, and then someone else shows to rent it, I have to have my policies on why this one got it and that one didn't. You know why? Because if I don't, I'm accused of discrimination or favoritism, and I can't handle that in my business. I can't believe that we can handle that in the city business. It's putting us at risk.
There's gray areas. We don't start Little League Baseball on March 1st every single year. You know what I mean? It may start March 13th, March 12th, depending on registration signups. So there's not an exact date of every single month that we have our sports. So it varies.
Right, and I put policy manuals together, my own and others, and we account for those things, and we say by the second Thursday of March, if you'll sign up on this, whatever the case may be, it prevents people from, like him, service members, taxpayers in our community, feeling that he's being treated differently. And the next person that shows up that will feel they're being treated differently, who might actually have an attorney that makes some headways into what's going on over there. That could be concerning to me as a representative of the city. When we don't have a policy manual that tells the public how they can secure a field or a court, it's concerning for a host of reasons. Major Oster, would you like to come up to the podium and share with us anything?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm Carl. I've been a Fort Walton Beach resident for over 10 years. I work over at Broward. Now I'm a reservist over here. I started up Recess After Dark Sports last year in February. I was not allowed to rent Fort Walton Beach fields for kickball. I tried to rent fields for volleyball last year, and I was essentially told no. I was told no because I had a baseball tournament going on, there wasn't enough parking. And when I queried why Emerald Coast Social Sports was able to run their volleyball tournament during the same time frame on a different night, and parking was not an issue for them, I got a direct email from you, who you keep referring to me as Kyle in my emails, which is comical. I appreciate that. You can't read my signature block, so that's something else.
What's that?
You haven't read my signature block yet, apparently. You know, whatever. But essentially it was, I'm not part of their club, and they're not interested in me participating, which is when I hired an attorney, and he had a conversation with my attorney, and magically enough, the next time I went to request the volleyball courts at Preston Hood, I was able to rent them. This year, I thought things might be a little bit differently. I did actually look at ECSS's calendar and figure out what sports they were playing and when, and I selected different times and dates, and I also did a public records request looking for when the fields were available, because the only way that I've been told by the director at the Parks and Rec Department to figure out when fields are available, and that's Wendy Riggs, is by making a public records request, which the first 5 of them were free for me to request, and I've started being charged for making public records requests to figure out when I can rent the city fields. Which I don't know why that changed, because it's just a print of an Outlook calendar. So I did that. I picked an open time slot. It took about 2 days, and I got a call back saying that none of the volleyball courts were available during the times that I had requested. I had my girlfriend make a second public records request after I got that, and conveniently enough, Emerald Coast Social Sports has been blanket booked for Monday and Tuesday nights from, I believe, February all the way to November. In which time I reached out to Mr. Walker and I said, hey, something isn't right. They did allow me to book fields later on Thursdays and Fridays, but it was just strange that everything, you know, and all of a sudden my initial request is gone and I have to re-scramble and reorganize my organization. I sent you guys an email saying, hey, look, I've been having issues and I'm interested in a policy letter, in which I got a direct email back from Jeff and then another direct email from Wendy, which I sent you that one as well, saying essentially that I cannot play another sport that ECSS is playing during the same time. So, which effectively means that I'm never able to rent the Fort Walton Beach volleyball courts until December. And nobody wants to play volleyball in December or January because it's cold. So, she did tell me that I'm allowed to keep my time slot for this one because I've already paid for it, but she said for future, because it's a competing sport, I am not allowed to run another sports league on the volleyball courts because ECSS has effectively booked them for the entire year. I actually played at ECSS. I separated from that because people weren't having a good time playing with it. And I wanted to put a new spin on it and start my own group. I've been playing up in Shalimar because I haven't been able to book fields in Fort Walton Beach consistently or accurately, which is also frustrating because my tax dollars are paying for the city fields. And I'm sitting there and I'll drive by the fields during times that I've requested and they're empty. And I'm like, why was I told no? Because, like, why can't I book these fields? I'm driving by them 6:30 at night, no one's on them. But when I try to book them, I get told no. And I don't know why. So, that's why I'm here. Hopefully we can get this fixed because my organization is actually twice the size of ECSS's right now. and we're still growing. So I would love to bring that money to Fort Walton Beach. I'm sponsored by a dozen businesses in Fort Walton, and we've been growing and actually bringing money into the community. We were part of the Boys and Girls Club Mac and Cheese Festival, which brought in, I want to say, somewhere around like $75,000 for them. And we also just sponsored the Emerald Toast E-Car YPN T-ball tournament, which I haven't gotten the official numbers back, but we sponsored and brought all the equipment for that, and that generated over $6,000 to the Boys and Girls Club as well. And I'd like to continue doing those things, but I need my company to exist. So.
Thank you, Major. Any questions for him? Thank you. Jeff, he touched on something there, Major in the Air Force here, and he took the time, he's had 2 attorneys, took the time to write us all, and, to respond to him as Kyle is not appropriate. So maybe it was an oversight. I appreciate that, Major Oster. That's all I have. Mr. Mayor, does somebody have anything for Major?
The only thing I was going to jump in and suggest is maybe the city manager and I could meet with Major Oster and talk about some of the issues and try to come to a resolution.
Thank you.
That would be great.
And Mr. Mayor, this dovetails into my third and final issue. At last regular meeting, something happened. Something was said, and it was one of the livelier conversations in up here. And after the 2 weeks since then, I've had time to digest it a little bit more, and it continues to bother me. And I want to bring it up, but it was when issues like this come up in the community, and there's allegations of favoritism or wrongdoing, that's a stain on all of us up here, and I don't want to be a part of that. And the things that was said at the last meeting, I know it wasn't probably intentional, but it came out and it was said. So, Mr. Mayor, I've got a question for you. Who whispered in your ear that $50,000 was a number to ask the council for? You said the number that was whispered in your ear was $50,000. It was $100,000. I'm sorry.
I heard that from a gentleman from the ECRC who has gone down this road before, and he said $100,000 would be a, and my counter to him when he mentioned that was I thought $100,000 might be a little rich for our council this time, and I felt comfortable asking for 50, but I was not comfortable asking for 100. And that was the sum total of the conversation.
And me not knowing how all of this has worked, I've typically seen people come to the podium and ask council for taxpayers' money. And so when I heard that it was, I'm thinking about it in the bigger picture too, that we're trying to build a bridge around the mound through whispers in the ear. And it's just, I know it's failed in the years past. I don't know what corrective measures we've taken or learned from those mistakes in the past. But it just didn't sound right and feel right. And then Travis used a word that, or a phrase that I know that it was pay to play. In a government sense, it's pay to play. And so when I think about that, I'm like, well, it's true. Councilman Jeter mentioned 100,000, and I mentioned $1.5 million. Would $1.5 million do us better if we gave them $1.5 million taxpayer dollars? Would it buy us more favor? Because that's what we're talking about. We're buying favors when we do that. And so that's what transpired there. And then when this issue comes up, I'm like, well, if pay to play and speeding up the process, guaranteeing, increasing our possibility of getting around the mound is okay for us with taxpayers' dollars, is it okay when they show up at the permit desk and they say, I'd like that permit real fast, and staff says, well, it's going to be about 6 months? Can they say, well, is there a...
You're mixing apples and oranges. That's totally different.
I disagree. It's a scheme where money is paid to increase chances or gain favor. I'm asking if it's okay at our level to spend taxpayers' dollars, is it okay to do it to a taxpayer when they show up at the desk?
I can't make that comparison. They're just not the same.
Would you agree it's not okay?
I can. Can I make a comparison?
Yeah.
Yes, it's true. If you pulled 100 permits and you've been building this town for 20 years, you probably have the building official's cell phone number, not the guy that just came there first. If you bought 100 cars, you're probably going to get better service. If I bought 100 houses from you, it's not so much pay to play, but isn't that how it works?
Well, in the sense other than what we were talking about with Around the Mound was that $50,000 would help increase our chances. And 100,000 said, hey, if they ask for 100, let's give them 100. And I jokingly said, we just got $1.5 million back, let's give them $1.5 million. And I had to retract it to say, wasn't being serious. But we're talking money. We're not talking phone calls. If I could make a phone call, if Mr. Mayor could make a phone call to someone over at the state and say, hey, can we increase our chances, I'd be fine with that. But to spend taxpayers' dollars to increase our chances and it being called pay to play, I described it then. I felt dirty.
Well, I don't think it's pay to play, but also I will say, no matter what happens with Around the Mound or the bridge, it's all taxpayer dollars. Every dollar that goes into that construction is taxpayer dollars. So that's...
Yeah. Mayor, I'd like to speak to that, and I think I mentioned this the other day. We all have phrases, you mean them differently, but when my perspective of the 50,000 or the 100,000 is not buying favor at all. What it's doing in my mind and what I've heard since that meeting is the community is unified behind this project, and that's evidenced by the fact that the city has contributed, or obviously that hasn't technically happened yet, has contributed money towards the furtherance of this project. So I don't see it as anything of that nature. I see it as that's showing evidence of our support towards this project. And so everybody comes from a different perspective. My perspective is that's the evidence of us as a community and a council saying we support this project.
I appreciate that because I brought it up at that same meeting. That the meeting prior, we had put more skin in the game at $125,000 on that meeting. And then this one started out at 50 and it went to 100. And tonight I'm reading the agenda package. It says it's matching funds. So if we would have gotten the 50 matching, that would have been 100. But since we put in 100, that's now gone up to 200. You see how that worked? Now there's $200,000 in funds for this design, all taxpayers' dollars, as the mayor has said. It's all taxpayers' dollars. But we've just upped the ante again. And again, I've heard from longtime people in the community, and I'm concerned about it, that this may not happen, Around the Mound may not happen, and that we're just wasting money on studies and consultants again. I wasn't here in the previous versions of it, but I've been told that that's what a lot of happened. A lot of money flowed out of here to elsewhere, and it didn't happen. So it's like, well, try again. So, it's kind of like, is there a limit of skin that, if somebody would come up here and say, Mr. Walker, council, you guys, if y'all can come up with this number, because of, there was suggestions that the budget might be a little short somewhere else and we might therefore jockey in and that kind of stuff. I've read it 100 times. I can't make sense of it. It just doesn't make sense. But if someone would come up here and say, Mr. Walker, or council, if you guys give this kind of money here, we put it over in this reserve. We're not going to spend any of it with studies and reports until the PD&E is finished, first of all. That's what I've been looking for with updated numbers and all. And when that thing's not there, the PD&E could kill it, right? I mean, the PD&E, if it comes back and it's negative and says, this isn't going to work, that money that we've put out there for Around the Mound is, well, we're going to spend it anyway for existing, we just want maybe some new design structure. So I have a problem with that issue. Mr. Mayor, I would ask if anyone whispers in your ear again, kindly invite them to the podium.
The gentleman would have been here because I did invite him, but he had a conflict.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and I hope that you can understand that when we talk pay to play up here and someone like Major Oser or someone else shows up at a desk and they want to increase their chances, they have no inclination or belief that they can pay favors or monies to get on the schedule more than someone else, because that's what we were kind of talking about as a group up here. We want to get in the right position to pay the right money to the right people. And
ours was a pledge. No money is left to say that was a pledge, but when it moves forward. So
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
all right, Mr. Alvarado. All right. I've just got two things to say. Musical Echoes is coming up this coming weekend, I believe, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the Landing. And on May 4th, there'll be a May Day celebration at Chester Pruitt Park. So put those on your calendar. That's all I've got. Let's move to item 9, public comments. Anybody from public wishes to speak on item not on the agenda? You can come forward, identify yourself. Seeing none, I'll go to item 10, resolutions. Item 10.1. 2024-7, resolution supporting the Around and On project. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, confirming authorization to provide up to $100,000 from the Community Redevelopment Agency fund balance and half-cent surtax revenues as a match towards the Florida Department of Transportation's contribution to perform design for the Around and On transportation alternate via the downtown master plan, providing a transmittal of the resolution and providing an effective date. Yes, sir.
Mayor and Council, good evening. Daniel Payne, Public Works Utility Services Director. I guess before I get started, Ms. Cobb, I know we had lots of comment on this item before it was an item. Is there anything that I need to at last meeting in April 10th, specifically, Council directed staff to come back with a resolution. I think they agreed to kind of the framework, so staff created a resolution, since that's what is usual for a vehicle of this matter, to give funds in partnership with DOT and OWTPO. So with that said, there is a resolution. It's 2024-7. It is for a pledging an amount of $100,000 towards the design phase of Around the Mile per se, and with that, I'll be here to. There's a timeline on there. You can see we try to break down as much as we could all of that and the different budgets that we've had on there for Around the Mile. But if there are any questions, I'll be able to here to try to answer any of them.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Payne, if you can kind of explain this, because Councilman Walker just spent a little bit of time talking about, some of that background and how that whole process works, but I have been on that committee that Mr. Smith sits on now, and Mayor, I know you've been a part of it a long time, and it's always been my understanding, and you have probably a better knowledge of the FDOT than anyone in this room. Isn't it true, in your opinion, that the FDOT has a budget just like this city does, just like any government organization does? If a city, a county, any organization that's a municipal organization says, hey, we really have this project, we really want to do it, they will look at it, it will go on the board along with, in Florida's case, tens of thousands of others in any given year. But I'm just kind of trying to give a rundown and stop me anywhere if I go off the tracks here. But, they have all these projects, and, this one we estimate would cost X, and this one we estimate would cost Y. And then when you get the amount of money that it would cost, and you get a little further down the process, they're saying, well, here we have all these projects, this one's going to cost $2 million, but these guys are willing to give us, out of their own budget, $1 million. And so now that project costs less than it did before. Therefore, it has now moved up our list, because now we are able to fund more projects, additional projects, because these guys in particular, in our case, the city of Fort Walton Beach, funded $1 million for the previous study. Correct?
I believe so.
And it's not, hey, we're sliding a briefcase in a smoky room, to somebody and saying, hey, buddy, can you move us up the list there, pal? We're saying, hey, our community really wants this project. We've done the research to talk to people in our community that say, man, I really hate sitting on 98 all the way from March until October, taking 30 minutes to get over this bridge. So everybody, the majority of people in our community agree that that's a valuable thing. So at that point, we gave them $1 million to fund half of the previous study, correct?
Correct.
And then so they, as an organization, looked at that and said, well, yeah, I mean, now it makes more sense for us to do this more quickly because, again, we can fund other projects with that other $1 million that would have come out of our budget had they not given us that $1 million. So here we are again with $100,000 and that type of situation. Is that the same situation?
It's the same situation. You know, the state publishes 5-year work plans, and you know there'll be number 1 and there'll be number whatever, 19, 20, however long it goes. Everybody's competing for the same, you know, pot of money in District 3. You know, there's different ways. A lot of the transportation authorities that you have, that some of your members on, you know, obviously you see the process that goes through. I will say me and Chief Page have gone to Chipley and lobbied without any money, obviously, but just on a public comment level. I think that was what recently, about a month ago.
I have as well. It's not
So I think there's different ways, but yes, the matching thing to contribute, to get things moved up, I don't think is an uncommon thing. However you want to call it, I think it's just part of the way that thing works, just like every grant that we have in the city, just like every legislative appropriation, just like everything usually that comes through where people are doing funds or some type of project for us.
And I just want to, and I can certainly understand some of the terminology and where it gets different, and I wasn't at that last meeting, and I can understand Mr. Walker taking issue with, you know, someone whispered in my ear or something like that, but I just think it's important that the public understand as well that this is not only a common practice, this is a helpful practice to the state to say that this community is really invested in this project, so much so that we are willing to put, quote, skin in the game to say, this is something we really want to get done. So if you will move it up, we will absolutely put money into the project so that it can get moved up, so that it can get completed. Now, you know, as well, we said, what if we put this money in there and nothing happens? I mean, are they giving us a guarantee, a money back guarantee on this?
I'm not aware of one, if that exists, but I will say, you know, a lot of this is pretty typical on the feasibilities, the PD&Es, the more the studies, planning type thing, but as we all know, it would be probably a drop in the hat in construction. I've never seen that on the construction side.
Sure. And then again, just to kind of finalize my questions on this, because I ask this question every time we talk about Around the Mound, but just so the public is aware, because I think it's always important to make sure that the public is aware of where the money would come from. Provided that in the future, hey, we get everything approved, all of these studies and all of these things go forward, the public comes together and says, we really like this design, everybody's on board, who pays for Around the Mound to be done?
I think we pay for it every time we go to the gas pump, to be quite honest. I mean, that's,
but the money comes from the Florida taxpayers, whether they're in this state living or whether they're visiting our state. They are funding the Florida Department of Transportation, and that budget would pay for the Around the Mound project were it to go forward.
correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any other comments on this?
And for every dollar we send up taxes from our gas, we don't get $1 back. So if we don't spend it, then not only are we not spending what we sent up, we're spending less than what we sent up. So federal tax dollars.
Any other comments?
No, I would like, thank you for those comments. We did miss you last week.
Thank you.
Last meeting. You know, the skin in the game, I've looked back, thank you, Jeff, for all the background here. We've been putting skin in the game. It looks like, I haven't done the math. Jeff, do you know, or Mr. Payne, do you know total from, let's go back since the beginning, starts in 2017, the new round of exploring around the mound, total dollars expended on the skin in the game?
I believe the first thing was $1 million, and then this one, I think this is the second. That was PD, you need to get it on the books, and then this would be the second one as a pledge.
Yeah, I saw $1 million or 700 which has an overall cost of $750 for the downtown master plan alternative 2B. We have that in hand, so $750's been spent on that, right? I mean, either through us or pledges or matches or whatever else. So you got $750 there, then over in 21, April 27th of 21, we've got $1 million for the PD&E, and beat it again while I'm here. The PD&E's not done. It may kill the whole deal. So this money that we're setting aside or sending away could go away, I guess. Does it come back to us, Mr. Payne? Now I've heard pledges. I've heard it's not leaving. I'm now getting confused. Does this money, this $100,000, does it simply go, Nicole, does it simply go into a restricted fund, or does it leave our coffers and go to the state?
I'm not going to write a check for it, no.
It doesn't go to the state?
No, it'll just be restricted, set to the side.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, $1 million there in 21 and 125 4 weeks ago, and now 100. Got it.
Yes, it looks like we've done this twice before on this project. So we did 50,000 in 2018, and then we did the $1 million. And this would be the third.
Well, we got the 125, and now we've got the 100, so that's 225 in the last month of skin.
The 125 was like, yeah, that was not a state deal.
That was just us planning for design.
Yes,
I mean, and I was talking about skin in the game. Obviously, we can go to the state and say, look, we've paid for design, we've paid for that skin. They're like, okay, y'all are serious. Y'all are really pumping some money into it. Oh, the bad news is it's not going to happen. PD&E killed it, so I mean that's where we could end up. So that's why I'm just being mindful of it. Thank you.
Any other comments from council? Anyone from the public wish to speak to this? If not, maybe get a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-7, pledging up to $100,000 for FDOT for design of Around the Mound.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Smith, second by Councilman Cheater to approve Resolution 2024-7 supporting the Around the Mound project. Further comment?
Yeah, you know, I'd say that anybody that says that this project is not going to happen, they don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if it's not going to happen. There's not one individual on the face of God's green earth that can tell you that this is going to happen 100%. But I'm willing to spend the money to find out if we can make it happen, because the community seems to be a majority for something. And so if we've got to spend $100,000, I have absolutely no problem to make sure that we can do that. If it gets us up higher on a list, that's the rules. The state's going to find a way to supplement their budget so they can spread their money across and do more projects that are out there, and that's just the way that the system works. I didn't build the system. I don't believe I can change the system from sitting where I'm sitting. So unless I plan to run for governor or something like that, then, you know, this is kind of where we're at. So I believe this is money well spent on something that if and we go through this, if it can be done, is something that will be, you know, a generational change to our city that I think will be very welcome. So that's why I'm supporting it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, you know, supporting these resolutions in the past and continue to support this one. You know, the goal from my perspective as well is to try to marry the bridge project as close as possible to the Around the Mound project, to try to get those programs as close as possible, to kind of add some development to that comment that Mr. Smith made about how generational change this is. And it's going to be a lot of part in our progress between the bridge being built and this program being built. But these kind of task orders and these kind of programs will help continue that momentum, so I'll be continuing to support it, sir.
Thank you, sir. Other comments from council?
An analogy in my business of real estate construction development, you know, I feel kind of like, you know, I've identified a lot that I want to build a house on, and I'm pretty sure it's under contract for me to build my house on that, and I go ahead and start paying an architect to design me the house. I haven't locked up my lot yet. Haven't gotten it locked up. I don't know it's going to be mine. I don't know if it's going to fit. They may cut it in half, and I'm paying someone else's money because I'm working for a homeowner, builder. And I suggest that they go ahead and engage the architect. They're going to say, "Are you sure?" I tell them, "Yeah." I mean, when they don't get that lot and they've spent that money with that architect who's a friend of mine, that they don't get to build it, they could say that, "Mr. Walker, you wasted my money." And I would agree with them. So that's it. I think we're putting the cart before the horse. I've said it numerous times. I continue to believe that.
Thank you, sir.
But have you ever had a deal fall through when they paid for an appraisal and then it ended up not? Did they get their money back from the appraiser?
Appraiser's the bank. That's different than me. I say the bank's telling you to get it. I don't tell them to get the appraiser. The bank does.
So they get their money back?
And they can take it up with the bank.
Gotcha.
The bank is the one that requires the appraisal, and oftentimes they do waive it. They'll say, "Look, that didn't, yes, you can have it back on the appraisal. We apply it to the next one." But I'm not going to advise a homeowner that's got a lot under contract to go invest with an architect to design a house that we don't know if it'll fit on there. And that's what we're doing, although it's in the pledged money, I hear, but it seems like pledged money at some point in the future just gets let out for that study that's, quote, already been paid for. So I mean, I know how it's going. I see how it's going. I just don't like it.
Any other comments from council? Mr. Bean.
I'm going to continue to support it for the same reasons. The time and effort and the money we've spent with our downtown, with the redevelopment, with the landing, with everything else, if we don't address traffic, then what's the point of doing any of it? I'm not suggesting that it's all for naught if it doesn't go through, but it's worth the try from the city for both our time and our assets. So it's for those reasons I'll support it. And I do believe that doing this is 100% above board in the sunshine, as evident of this meeting in the sunshine and a resolution. So I believe this to be a necessary and appropriate thing to do to show the community support for the project.
Thank you, sir. Last call for comment. Council, please vote. And it does pass 6-1. Thank you, council. That'll bring us to item 11, ordinances on first reading. 2123, ordinance charter amendment number 1, compensation to elected officials. Ms. Cobb.
Okay, this is ordinance 2143, an ordinance of the city of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, amending the city charter to create a new section 34 titled Prohibition of Compensation to Elected Officials, providing for a referendum on the charter amendment, providing for a ballot question, providing for a vote at the November 5th, 2024 election on whether to prohibit compensation and financial benefit to elected officials, providing for coordination with the supervisor of elections, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date. This is first reading. I just want to note for the record that if this ordinance passes, then on second reading, we may change the section number in the title, but nothing substantive without direction from council.
Why would we change the section number?
We may want to move it in the charter and move it further up in the charter. 34 is at the end. We may want to put it somewhere closer to the beginning. So we're still working on the location, but it wouldn't change the substance of the amendment. So as you all know, the history was back in 2021, a group of citizens submitted petitions for charter amendments to the supervisor of elections, and the supervisor of elections did certify those petitions. Council has given previous direction for this ordinance to come back on first reading, and it's here with a proposed ballot question, so I'll just read that for the record and then let you all discuss it. But the proposed ballot language is Shall the City of Fort Walton Beach's charter be amended to prohibit elected officials from receiving any compensation, including without limitation a salary or other item of financial benefit, except that elected officials may be reimbursed for expenses actually incurred in the performance of their duties? And citizens would vote yes for approval or no for rejection.
Thank you, Ms. Cobb. Anyone from council wish to comment? Mr. Jeter.
Yes, we had these up here many times, and we all know it's going to a ballot. I fully understand that. I just would like some clarification on the history and the background of where did it come from to even be compensated up here? Was there a reason why we even went to that? Was it to get more candidates or more? What was the reason?
I don't know the reason. I actually don't remember when it was started, but that probably, sometimes that does.
I mean, that's what I've heard. I've heard it was to get more involvement and more people up here. I think that happened the last election. I think we had 14 candidates for 4 seats. And I think years ago, prior to some of this being up there, you had 4 candidates for 3 seats. So I think it served its purpose and gotten a lot of young professionals and business owners and people up here. What scares me about this is, should or could this pass going forward 10 years from now? You don't know. Are you going to have, we know with Form 6 coming and you have elected officials dropping out and not wanting to run in some of our neighboring communities, and now you throw this in there. I just, like we said last time, I hope this is the right thing, and I hope we've thought it through and this isn't just all because of the fire fee and it comes back to haunt us in the future. So I don't plan to support it on the ballot. I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think we've all even set up here and said we don't agree with it, and we're not personally going to vote for it, but we're going to put it on there. And I get there was a lot of work to get a lot of petitions out there, but we've also talked about changing the charter as a whole. So let's just take this one, for example. Is there anyone up here that cares to possibly even reword it instead of prohibiting? What I would like to really see on here, and I think the way it really should be worded, if we wanted to amend the charter and get it correct, would be kind of an and or an option. I know some people, even Councilman Walker said there, and said it should be more, and I think we've all agreed to that, but I'm not going to put more on here, but we could break down the difference and say it's compensation or it's insurance or it's either. In other words, 10 years from now, if you have a retired military personnel that has TRICARE and it's just insurance, it may not benefit them. They may rather have a monetary offset. So I just really think we should not say, well, this is what they signed, because we've changed the budget one a lot. So I don't see why we couldn't change this one if we really wanted to look at it, as Councilman Schmidt likes to say, from 30,000 feet above and reword it and really try to get it correct. Is there an appetite to do that, or is this just the way it's worded, the way we're going?
Comments? Mr. Schmidt?
I mean, I'll fully support anything that has the intended purpose of the original petition. Very similar to the budget petition. My understanding was the watch group meet with staff, and where it was at from its original form is slightly different, but still in the same intent of the original petition. Because at the end of the day, for me at least, everything that I hear you say is more about more the educational campaign of why or why not I believe as a resident. I think the sacrifice I make 20 hours a week, sometimes more, sometimes less, that I should be compensated for my time and effort. I think it's worth that. As a resident, I won't be supporting or voting, for not getting compensation for elected officials. I think it's good for that elected official for the time that they do. Now, as a city council person that is elected, I think the fundamental, like I said last meeting when we had this on the agenda, that citizen advocacy group that put in that work and that time and effort to do something that has never been done in the city of Fort Walton Beach is really something that goes back to the precedence of the power of the people, and enough petitions were driven to get Paul Lux's office, supervisor of elections, to certify it. Whether I agree with it or not, I think we're obligated to get it to the ballot. So again, that's kind of I do have an appetite for the intended purpose of this Charter Amendment 1, composition to elected officials, and/or some of those kind of things that you mentioned. But that's just my perspective.
Thank you, sir. Other comments from council?
I guess just to rebuttal that, I totally get it, it's going to a ballot, but I also don't want to be, it's the timing of it, there's people that put in a lot of time in the years past that get all these petitions. We went over this last time I've been here now, as being here 1 year with a new city manager and a new city attorney and a whole new vision and great things happening in our community. I don't want to look up 3 months from now and people be confused as to why you voted yes then, but you're telling me to vote no now. So I'm not going to support it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone from the public wish to comment on this?
Question.
Yes, Mr. Mead.
If for some reason, I say for some reason, if there's a change between this meeting and next meeting with the and the or, I'm assuming that could be modified between the first and the second reading.
It could be, yeah. I'll just also say, we under the law, really only were required to have one public hearing, but we decided to have 2 and give the public extra input. So the only hearing that's really required is the second hearing.
But the and is the way the petitions were submitted?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Council, someone wants to make a motion for here?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 2143.
Second.
Second was David. It's been moved by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Schmidt to approve 2143, ordinance charter amendment number 1, compensation to elected officials. Further comment?
Yeah, I mean, I just echo what I said last time. You know, this is not about the substance. This is, they met the statutory requirement for legislating themselves through charter amendment. And the city has been blocking them, or previous council was blocking them for over 3 years. I believe we even got a public records request asking how much our city attorney has spent helping the watch group get this done, which I believe was 0, and the last council spent north of $50,000 blocking this. You know, it's, no matter how you feel about what is the content of them, the fact of the matter is they met the Florida statutory requirement for these to go on a ballot. I ran on helping getting these on a ballot. I'm going to get them on a ballot. This is what the watch group wants. This is how they want them worded. I'm going to help them. These are the watch group's charter amendments. They're not city council's charter amendments. So this is what they want. They met the statutory requirement. This is what I'm going to give them. However the vote goes is however the vote goes. But this process right here is just getting them to a ballot that should have happened longer than 3 years ago at this point. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, sir.
Just last question. Just curious as to where it came from. Where did it come from to put this on a ballot?
Yeah, it came out, I mean, it came out of a group of concerned citizens. At the time, they had been coming up here, I was a part of it. We've been coming up here, we've been speaking with the city at length about the growth of the budget. And one of the things that some of the members noticed was the compensation that was being set aside for insurance purposes. And when there were a number of retired military up here and other civil service, we're like, well, why are they setting aside $27,000 for them? And it's similar to what I've experienced, and that's why I put it together each time. They're funding, well, in case they need it. So, well, just ask them if they want insurance. Don't set away $27,000 for them. But instead, they'd set away whatever that number was, $22,000, it seems like was a number I remember, times the 7. And it may have only been a number of them that were actually taking it. So that money was budgeted for, but not spent in that regard. It went back into the general fund, I believe. So it was, you know, there were attempts at negotiations, with the watch group and the council, and that didn't go well. We ended up having to go, the matter went before a judge, went through every Okaloosa County judge, except for one was willing to take it, and then the city didn't want him, and so it made it over to Escambia, went through 2 judges over there before it landed in one, and the ruling is what it was.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Alvarado.
Yeah, I won't speak on the other ones as well. I'll just say what I say here. But I've said the same thing the entire time as well, which is I don't agree with the content of the petitions. I think that they will all harm the city in some way that is not foreseen or is very clearly foreseen in other cases. However, I strongly agree, as I have from the very beginning, and I voted as such the entire time, that they should be put on a ballot and put to the voters and campaigned upon by the citizens of this city that understand that these will be harmful to the city. And I would hope that the watch group and the remaining members of the watch group as well would join the rest of the citizens of Fort Walton Beach in clearly understanding that the real way to change the city and the city's charter, the city's budget, etc., is to elect a group of officials up here that care about the same things that you care about. And if those things are, let's make sure we're really watching how much money is spent in this way or that, elect your people, put them up here, and let's legislate. Because there's 7 people that sit up here, not one. There's not one king that makes decisions for everyone. When you have all 7 people that think the same, that's a problem. And that needs to be changed, and it has changed. We've made great progress up here. We've had really positive discussions. The city is moving in a wonderful direction. I would really hope that every member that supported this originally would understand that when these were written, when those doors were knocked on, when that pen went to paper, this is a different time than it was then. And 10 years from now is going to be a different time too. We have the guardrails in place. We have the expectations of our city's residents, and we'll put them on the ballot now. And I hope that everyone will join together to defeat all 3 of them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, just to kind of respond to where some of this came from, you know, being on this side of the dais as well as Mr. Allegretto, just seeing, you know, folks like Travis and Payne and many other that were on that side of the dais in the 2018, 2019, 2020. Mr. Allegretto mentioned it nicely, put it nicely. We're in different times. We're in different times, and that's a good thing. We have a great culture. The direction of our conversations up here on the board is in a much more business and professional minded type of culture, and it wasn't like that 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And a lot of these efforts came out of that frustration. A lot of that became unification between different stakeholders to stay organized long enough. And I'll never forget when Mr. Smith came in here with a dolly and said to the board, I have enough petitions to get certified, but I still want to go negotiate. And it never happened. So, you know, I think we are obligated, not just because statutorily it's a law, but just the fundamental principle of to change a charter, this is the process of doing it. Whether I agree with the substance or not inside of the ordinances, the efforts are commendable. Let's get this to a ballot and let the people decide and put it to bed.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Meade.
For similar reasons, as has been stated before, I'll support it. Not on a personal voter level, but on a person that raised their hand and said they'll uphold the laws of the state of Florida and the charter of the city of Fort Walton Beach. I believe that I have an obligation to move these forward and put them on the ballot. It's not to say I'll vote for any of them. It's not to say I agree that there should be no compensation or guardrails within the budget. It's just to say the rules are in place. We live in a society of rules, and the rules state that if they achieve this threshold, they get the chance to put them on the ballot. So I'll support them going on the ballots, and What I do personally when I go to vote will be a different thing, but that's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to vote for myself. I'm here to vote for the community. So I will support all three of them.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jeter.
Nice thing, Mr. Mayor. I agree with all you guys up here. It's going to a ballot, but my campaign to vote no just starts tonight, so I'm just going to let that start tonight.
Any other comments? Mr. Barry.
I agree with you, Mr. Mead. There's enough petitions that were signed a few years ago to bring it to a ballot. And this is the United States of America. And we have the most privileged vote. And this is what we ask, let the people vote. Whether you agree with it or not, let the people vote. And this, I support the amendments.
Anyone else? Council, please vote. And it does pass 6-1. Thank you. Item 11.2, 2144, ordinance charter amendment number 2, special assessments. Ms. Cobb.
Okay, this is ordinance 2144, an ordinance of the city of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, amending the city charter to create a new section 22.1 titled Special Assessment Petition, providing for a referendum on the charter amendment, providing for a ballot question, providing for a vote at the November 5th, 2024 election on whether to establish petition requirement for levying special assessments in the city of Fort Walton Beach, subject to certain exceptions as provided in the charter, providing for coordination with the supervisor of elections, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date. This is first reading, same history as the other amendment that we just discussed, and I'll just read the ballot language. Proposed ballot language. Shall the city of Fort Walton Beach's charter be amended to add a requirement that the city must first gather the signatures of the majority of the owners of record of real property that the city intends to levy a special assessment upon, and residents would vote yes for approval or no for rejection.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions from council for Ms. Cobb?
And same comment, we may change or remove section numbers on all three of these.
Anyone from the public wish to comment on this? If there's no comment, council, we may get a motion.
I make a motion to pass 2144 ordinance charter amendment number 2, special assessments.
Second.
And the second was Mr. Walker. It's been moved by Councilwoman DeBerry, seconded by Councilwoman Walker to approve 2144 ordinance charter amendment number 2, special assessments. Further comment? Mr. Berry? Comment?
No.
Okay. Mr. Walker? No. Council, please vote. Does pass 7-0. Thank you, Council. 11.3, 2145, ordinance charter amendment number 3, limitation of budget increases. Ms. Cobb.
Okay, ordinance 2145, an ordinance of the city of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, amending the city charter to create a new section 35 titled Limitation on Budget Expenditures, providing for a referendum on the charter amendment, providing for a ballot question, providing for a vote at the November 5th, 2024 election on whether to establish a limitation on budget expenditures in the city of Fort Walton Beach, subject to certain exceptions as provided in the charter, providing for coordination with the supervisor of elections, providing for conflict, severability, and an effective date. This is first reading, and I will read the ballot question for the record. Shall the city of Fort Walton Beach's charter be amended to limit the city the city's expenditures to an amount that may not exceed the prior year's actual expenditures by more than 3%, or the percentage increase, if any, in the consumer price index, whichever is less, without prior referendum approval, subject to certain exceptions, including exceptions for emergencies, grants, debt service loans, utility expansion, loan payments, gifts, and impact fees. Residents would vote yes for approval and no for rejection. And then if you read the rest of the ordinance outside of the ballot language, it will give you the details on the exceptions on pages 2 and 3 of the ordinance.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions from council for Ms. Cobb? Anyone from the public wish to comment? Seeing none, council, may we get a motion? Oh, yes, Mr. Jeter, I'm sorry, go ahead.
More so a question about, say, around the mountain, a hypothetical project. I know Mr. Allegretto said earlier, FDOT would pay for that. But we're gonna have some expenses incurred with utilities or any other work that needs to be done. Let's just say that's $10 million. I just want to kind of close my eyes and someone go through the timeline as to how that's going to work. But we obviously know this is going to a ballot. We're not discussing that, but how will this work? Should this go to a ballot and get passed? What does a roundabout project look like?
Well, if it brought us over the spending cap, we would have to budget without around the mound. And then depending on timelines with voting, we'd have to go out to referendum to get the citizens to accept it. And Daniel might be able to maybe say a little more about it, because I don't know about timelines and when things work. But depending on their timeline and project timeline, if the vote is too far out, a few months out, or doesn't work within their timeline, we can lose the project. Because we would have to wait for the citizens to vote against it to be able to have it in the budget. And I don't know, you can maybe.
So on the utility side, looking at maybe number 5, I'm assuming capital-wise, you could budget for it, but whether it's new lift stations, whatever that we have.
But if it's going to cost us $10 to $15 million, this has got to go back, and it could be a year later.
You know, so the state does not pay us for utility locates unless they're in the right of way. They will reimburse if they're in easements. So we would be on the hook for some relocations, just like the bridge, and whatever that infrastructure would be. But you know, you could get into building capital infrastructure and not having the chlorine to put in.
And I don't want to get back on around the mountain for 30 more minutes, but it does kind of scare me that we've already used, I guess we can total it up 10 different ways, but we've already invested millions of dollars of the taxpayers' money into around the mountain. And then if this ends up going back to the voters and not passing for whatever reason, we've kind of already invested their money, but they're not approving the next round of money. Just kind of seems
counterintuitive?
Possibly. I mean, again, we reworded this one 10 times. We have another reading on it, not 10 times, 3 or 4 times. We have another reading on it. That's just one. I know there's some other ones I can see there go down forever, but it would be nice to get together one more time maybe and make sure there's absolutely nothing that we don't want to put in here, whether it's one specific project. I know we can talk about and or forever, but is there anything else, whether it's half-cent sales tax or a different type of this or a different type of that? Is there any more working together, or is this the one that's going to a ballot? Do you guys want to try to get together one more time and put anything on this, change it? I know you want to change a lot of stuff on it, but
I want it to go away.
I know why we have time to do one more thing. Is there any other worst case scenarios that we could?
The half-cent sales tax definitely needs to be in there. The last communication with the watch group, we gave them 4 different ones that I said absolutely should be in there, but they didn't include them. One was half-cent sales tax, which was on number 4. On number 2, I asked them to include matching grants. They don't include matching grants. So for example, the landing, the first phase, we got a grant for $1.6 million, but we had to match it. So things like that wouldn't be included. And I also stated all special revenue funds and enterprise funds. Enterprise funds are run like a business, they're self-sustaining. Special revenue funds are funds like the Law Enforcement Trust Fund, the half-cent sales tax, the TDC money. It's all specifically legislated money that's supposed to be spent a certain way. So I feel like those need to be excluded as well. The only other thing that I said I thought needed to be also excluded is cost allocation items and interfund transfers, because that's not actual, that's an actual money that's being spent. Basically, a cost allocation is kind of like how IT will work in every single department. So the actual expense we budgeted in that department, but there's additional money that's shooting money back and forth to be able to say, okay, well, IT worked on $50,000 worth of finances stuff. So it's money that goes back and forth, increases the budget, but it's not actual money that's actually being spent or anything like that. So I think those 4 things, if we were to change anything, definitely need to be in there if I'm going to get anything.
So regardless of the and or, those 3 or 4 things,
that I think would be crucial.
Is that possible to?
Yeah, even if you passed it on first reading, you could still revise the exceptions between now and second reading in late May and come back and have those revisions done in between. if you wanted to.
Again, said it last time, I would just love to see that happen, and hope that we get this right in 10 years from now. We're not looking back going, wish we would have done one or two more things. Hopefully we can get that done.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Schmidt.
So on the hypothetical train, so this goes to ballot. The community is fired up about around the mountain. The education campaign goes out, and I would expect the community, and now the hypothetical ballot I'm talking about not is the one this November on the petitions, but if we have to increase the budget because of around the mountain. It goes to a ballot, correct? And the community would vote whether or not they like the project. Is that essentially what they're voting on?
They could if that's the way.
Right, the ballot language is written up.
Hypothetically, it could be done that way, yeah.
And I'll just try to continue to follow that hypothetical trail. So, I mean, the confidence I have I completely respect financial officers, the different impacts and things that want to try to fight for in the budget, but I also have a lot of confidence too that if this goes to a referendum because the funding for Around the Mountain is coming to us in the tune of $10 million and we got to go to a referendum, the hypothetical I'm confident on is the community is going to continue to be behind it and support it. Let's adopt this into our budget and move on.
Thank you, sir. Other comments from council? Anyone from the public wish to address this? Council, may we get a motion?
Mayor, I move ordinance 2145.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Walker, I believe. Mr. Walker, please screen. I have trouble hearing on that left side, I'm sorry.
I'll point your way next time.
Thank you, sir. Been moved by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Walker for ordinance 2145, Charter Amendment 3, limitation on the budget increases. Further comment?
Yeah, we've gotten staff together with representatives for the watch group to massage this thing. It has changed a lot from where it originally was. I believe that there was even recently an opportunity to meet that did not happen. If staff thinks that this is going to be catastrophic to the city and thinks that it's absolutely going to crater this whole place, I would recommend that you probably need to meet and justify to them what they need to change. But at the end of the day, again, this is the watch group's petitions. This is what they have put out. This is what they put forward. They have met the statutory requirement. It needs to get to a ballot and get voted on.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Council, please vote. Does pass 7-0. Thank you, Council. Item 12, ordinances on second reading. 12.1, 2141, ordinance to rezone 327 Eglin Parkway North from MX1 to CG. Mr. Frasetti. Oh, wait a minute. Ms. Cobb, you need to read.
Ordinance 2141, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for the property located at 327 Eglin Parkway North to be rezoned from MX1 mixed-use medium to CG commercial, providing for the amendment of the affected portion of the official zoning map, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Frasetti.
Thank you. Chris Frasetti, Growth Management Director. So this is the second reading of the ordinance to rezone 327 Eglin Parkway North from MX1 to CG. So just a quick background on this one again. Following the first reading, this was a site that was formally approved as a PUD, planned unit development, to initially originally allow the construction of a Walmart neighborhood market and an associated gas station with that. That project never happened. So back in 2020, there was another ordinance, 2032, approved at that time to allow a change to the underlying zoning district to allow what became the SEPCO gas station that was built and exists today. Since that time, the north part of the property has still been vacant, and the owner was looking for some opportunities to see what he could do on it, and so that's where this rezoning and the next item come into play. This request is to rezone the underlying zoning from the MX1 mixed-use medium to CG commercial. They have proposed a future, a potential commercial landscape business on the site, and so as a standalone item, looking at a change just to commercial here, staff typically would have concerns about that due to the surrounding residential properties on Middle Drive and some of the adjacent streets. However, with the restrictions of the PUD that are in the following item,
Staff has reviewed this and does feel that it is consistent with our land development code and comprehensive plan. There's, like I said, a lot of restrictions within the PUD that really would limit any uses that are not compatible to the surrounding land uses. So we did take this to the LPA at their last meeting, and the LPA did recommend approval of this change. We have not received any additional comments since first reading, and we've not made any changes to the ordinance since first reading. So with that, staff does respectfully recommend the City Council's approval to request to change the underlying zoning district for 327 Eglin Parkway North from MX1, mixed use medium, to CG commercial. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council for Mr. Presetti? Anyone from the public wish to comment on this? Seeing none, council, may we get a motion?
Motion to adopt ordinance 2141 to rezone 327 Eglin Parkway North from MX1 to CG.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Jeter, second by Councilman Smith to approve ordinance 2141 to rezone 327 Eglin Parkway North from MX1 to CG. Any further comments? Council, please vote.
Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Meade said that he would be abstaining from this, the same reason as last time as he represents the claim.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the clarification. And does pass 6-0 and 1 abstention. And thank you, Mr. Meade. Item 12.2, 2142, ordinance for planned unit development, PUD, for 327 Eglin Parkway North. Ms. Cobb.
Ordinance 2142, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for property located at 327 Eglin Parkway North to update planned unit development, PUD zoning overlay, providing for approval of the site development plan, major development order, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Presetti.
Thank you. This is the follow-up to the previous item, and this is to amend the PUD planned unit development for the property at 327 Eglin Parkway North, and as well as also approval of the site development plans, major development order for the proposed new commercial project on this site. So staff has reviewed this item, and as I mentioned in the previous item, staff reviewed and feels that they've done a good job in providing all the buffers that were originally part of the previous agreement from the Walmart through the Sefco to the south, and now it's this project. Done a good job maintaining those buffers, adding some landscape around that part of the property to the east along Middle Drive, limiting access there, hours of operation for any deliveries on the site, and all of those items that really were previously addressed in the previous PUDs were maintained well within this PUD. And the site development plans have been reviewed by the city's development review team, and we do find that they meet their requirements within our city's codes. So with that, staff does find that it is consistent and compatible with the land development code. We had a few conditions or comments within our development that I mentioned here, speaking to the landscape buffer areas that, much like the previous developments, we will require some of the pre-construction meetings to make sure that everyone's clear about the trees to be removed or kept. We have specific language in here about the number of protected trees to be removed and replaced in accordance with the city's code as well. And with that, this item also did go to the LPA at their last meeting, and the LPA did recommend approval of this ordinance. So with that, city staff does respectfully recommend that City Council approve a request to update the planned unit development for 327 Eglin Parkway North and approving ordinance 2142 to adopt the proposed PUD and site development plan major development order. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions from council for Mr. Presetti? Anyone from the council wish to, from the public wants to speak?
I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Barrett, go ahead.
2142 ordinance for planned unit development of PUD for 327 Eglin Parkway North.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilwoman DeBerry and seconded by Councilman Jeter to approve 2142 ordinance for the planned unit development, the PUD, for 327 Eglin Parkway North. Further comment? Council, please vote. And it does pass 6-0 with one abstention from Mr. Mead. Item 13, action, direction, discussions. 13.1, award of ITB 24006, Fort Walton Beach Landing Improvements, Phase 2.
Thank
Peter.
you. Yes, as you all kind of been updating this as we went along on the landing project, phase 1 is due to be completed here in the second week of May, so we're trying to prevent some overlap with the two construction projects. This one actually includes the stage and the tiered seating down towards the amphitheater, some lighting and some sidewalk concrete in it. This was it was bid out February 8th of this year, of 2024. On April 11th, there was two vendors that submitted. GLC Contracting, who is doing the first phase, who's awarded the first phase, and Empire Builders Group. GLC was the lowest bid at $2,451,590.30. The funding is actually coming from a few different sources. The Restore Act funding, TDC, which supplied $500,000 towards the stage, the CRA, and the half-cent surtax revenues. And staff is recommending award of Phase 2 to GLC Contracting with Fort Walton Beach, Florida, in the amount of $2,451,590.30.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council for Mr. Peters? Mr. Smith?
In these bid packages, did we have any timing goals to where they could earn bonuses if they finished it in a certain amount of time, or penalties if it took them too long? You know, did we have anything like that in the bid package?
There's penalties for taking too long.
Okay. And then I have one more question. What did we, I know originally we tried to bid this whole thing out as one project, and we ended up having to break it up into multiple projects. Do you remember what the original amount budgeted for this phase would have been? What we originally budgeted for?
This phase or the whole thing?
This, I guess that would account for this phase.
The engineering plan was $2,175,000 somewhere.
So we're like $300,000 over that, but that was done.
Right. And they
3 years ago.
They submitted a letter to the city recommending and saying that the price was fair based on the price of material in today's time.
Other questions? Mr. Jeter?
The golf cart parking, I know it still says on here, stucco one-story building to be demolished. What is that plan?
The golf cart parking will be there at that dirt area. We've Daniel's crew, they did some design plans, and that's on the near future. That's not part of this.
Other questions from council? Anyone from the public wish to comment? Council, may we get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to award ITB 24006 for the landing improvements Phase 2.
Second. Been moved by Councilman Jeter, seconded by Councilwoman DeBerry to award ITB 24006 Fort Walton Beach Landing Improvements Phase 2. Further comment?
I would like to say thank you. It's been a long time. Today's TEC meeting got moved to tomorrow. So it's going to be very nice to go in there and tell them that we have done it, because for the whole year I've been there, they've been saying this falls off next year and budget's starting. So thank you. Can't wait to go to the meeting in the morning and tell them we got it done.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor. Oh, go ahead, James.
Just for clarification, you said Phase 2, but I'm assuming that's to GLC Contracting in the amount of the 2.4 number.
Forgot, can you read the whole thing? Improvements Phase 2 to GLC Contracting in the amount of $2,451,590.30.
Thank you. Works for me. You left it the other way. It was open-ended.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Alberto?
I also want to say thank you to everybody that's been involved in this, in the staff. I know that some people aren't even with the city anymore that have been involved. That's how long this thing's been going on, and many other outside entities as well, including the federal government have all been involved in this thing, but it's just so awesome. We were driving by over where the previous iteration of that building that's never been built, called the Landmark Center, and that wonderful wrap around that fence, which looks just fantastic, and had a couple people that were in the vehicle with me comment about, wow, that's really cool, good idea to show all the projects, and then they started commenting on the landing stuff, and it really shows the community what we've got going on. The reason that I also wanted to comment on this was it's really interesting, and I'm not asking for any further discussion or anything, but again, for the public, it's really interesting when you look at projects like this and think about that $2.45 million that's in the budget currently right now that's affected this fiscal year's budget. So the total pool of money, because this money was allocated in this fiscal year. So then we look forward next year. Well, now we don't have that $2.45 million as part of the budget because now it's actually been paid out. It no longer has to be accounted for. It's not in an account. It's not in a restricted fund. It's not in a fund balance. It's not in anything. It's gone from that total number. So if that number was previously 60, now it's less, 2.4 million. So it's just very interesting when you look at that and how that correlation will be in the future if a 3% cap were to be put on that number from the year before, what type of projects that you had going on that year, how much of that money would come out and where that funding, would either be replaced or not replaced, or how that money all jives together. Was that money earning interest? All of these different things that factor into that. So I think it's important that at every turn when we vote on big money things like this, that the public is aware and thinking about this, because that vote's coming on the 5th of November. It's important that the public be aware that things like this could potentially cause major problems. I'm not saying that it would cause a major problem, I'm saying it potentially could. And it's a very interesting way to think about it going forward. But I absolutely will support this motion. I think it's a fantastic project. Just wanted to add that extra little caveat on the end. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from council? Mr. Meade?
I will be abstaining, and Ms. Barnes will be for the same reason we did before. It's a client. I think it's appropriate, since they'll receive a direct benefit from the city, for me not to vote on it.
Council, please vote. And it does pass 6-0 with one abstention, and thank you, Mr. Meade. All right, item 13.2, goals and objectives for a fire consolidation study. Mr. Schmidt.
That's right. All right, so, moving forward, more from the scope of just economic development, wanted to see if there's an appetite with this council to figure out what our goals and objectives would be, to discover, to evaluate the best way to provide fire services in our community. So again, from a planning perspective, with the economic development, not only just in this part of the country, in this part of the state, and I don't think it's slowing down anytime soon. So thank you, Mayor and City Manager, for getting this on the agenda. And again, wanting to kind of gauge some feedback on the dais. Are there any goals? Are there any priorities to more specifically evaluate next steps that would give us information on cost, services, impacts, on, again, the scope of being what's the best way to provide fire services inside of the city of Fort Walton Beach for the residences and businesses. Again, some people here might have an objective of what can we do to keep it lower cost. Some people may have, hey, at this threshold, I'm all right with an increase of cost, but I want to better the level of service. Level of service meaning, what's the best way to provide fire services? I don't know this information. I know that there's vendors out there that do, as well as we have two amazing chiefs that provide fire services for the residents of Fort Walton Beach and the businesses, between Chief Morgan and Chief Wagner with Ocean City Right. But again, wanted to get feedback from y'all while the red light's on. We can discuss if there's any appetite to evaluate just between two agencies, Ocean City Right, Fort Walton Beach, evaluating three options. Options of the city of Fort Walton Beach expanding into the district, options of Ocean City Right expanding into Fort Walton, and a third option of it being a completely brand new district, brand new name, and evaluating what those next steps would be. And through that evaluation process, working hand in hand with both of our fire chiefs and whatever vendor would be approved if we did get support to go to an RFP to evaluate it. But again, that's just kind of the background, because I feel like we need to put something from a planning perspective, a direction, as we continue to see the economic development in this area and the best way to provide fire services. So, Mr. Mayor, that's it.
All right. Mr. Murphy, go ahead.
To answer your question, yes, thank you for putting it on here. I would like to see it simply for, I remember Chief Morgan, I'm kind of like you came up here a long time ago and said, you want to put it to bed one way or another. You know, so I'm not for any one of the three. I don't know any data on the three, but I'd like to put it to bed for you to know, are we going forward with it or are we not, one way or another?
I would really strongly agree with what Councilman Jeter just said. Anytime we have these kind of discussions, and I'm not certainly faulting you, Councilman Schmidt, for bringing this up. I'm glad you're bringing it up. It just seems like it's always something that somebody will hint at here or there. And it's not just with the fire department. It's been with the police department in the past. It's been with other services in the past, well before any of us were involved in any of this. But it definitely does have a negative impact on the morale of the team, of the crew. And I know that that's hard for some people to understand, but it's absolutely true. We've lost firemen in the last 9 months, 2 years, because they were concerned about their job. Not that they left specifically because they felt I'm going to lose my job, but anyone who's ever changed a job or a house or any number of major life decisions, there's a lot of different factors involved in there. And because this speculation has gone on, not only from this council, but from previous councils, from the public, etc., it does affect the morale of the fire department, and it would affect the morale of any group in our city. So if we're going to move forward with something, let's move forward with something. Let's look at what that is. Because as everyone knows, this is a really strange area for fire control. I think everyone would agree, you look at those maps, and it is a very bizarre map. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, I would also echo the sentiments that you said regarding the two entities, like two incredible fire departments. I'm super proud of our city fire department, and any interaction I've ever had with the Ocean City Right Fire Department has been fantastic. I have no fault with any employee, anybody that works in those two organizations. However, I would like to put this to bed and move forward with something. So if we're going to do something, let's look for a vendor. Let's let everyone know that's involved in this, hey, this is what we're doing and why we're trying to do it. And the reasons that we're trying to do it is because we want to provide the best possible coverage for the city of Fort Walton Beach, because that is what our job is. We're not out to look out for unincorporated Fort Walton Beach, whether that's in the Ocean City Right Fire District, which is not a place other than a fire district. And for everyone that's not aware of this in the public, fire districts are only controlled, it's a special district, only controlled by the governor. The governor is the only one who can create them. The governor is the only one who can disband them. So you could say, hey, well, this doesn't really work out well great for these guys. They're way up here in this little thing, and they've got it covered over here. But these two crews cover each other, have each other's back, always show up, never, they've gotten along fantastically, I would say, for the past 3, 4, 5 years. Never been an issue that I've heard about anyway. So never anything that would rise up into the public. But my God, it's a tough challenge, for sure. And so if we're going to try to tackle it, we also have to understand that it goes way above our heads and way beyond what we can do. So we have to only focus on it from the city's standpoint. So what provides the best coverage to our city of Fort Walton Beach residents, our taxpayers, our businesses? So I'm all for looking at that and looking to see that we're doing it the best possible way we can, but I would really like to get a resolution out of it if we do indeed move forward with something. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for Ms. Barnes. Are there not some protections in this city charter for both police and fire so we don't go down this road?
Apparently there's something on the voting. It's called, do you?
I think that's more to
You can check for it.
disband it.
While we're doing that there,
Go ahead.
you probably remember when I was coming in here constantly every meeting asking for that. You know, I don't know enough about fire services to be able to tell you what to do one way or another. So I don't want to come in here and have an expectation that, hey, this is what we're going to study. You know, I would expect that if we do a study, it covers A to Z, so then we can get the information back, we can assess the information, we can have a conversation with the fire department, with the chiefs, with the unions, with the other fire department, with the chiefs and the unions, and all sit down and have a conversation about, now that we got all this data back, what does it all tell us? What all makes sense for a better way to do this? So, you know, I don't really want to go in and tell anybody, hey, these are our three options that we want to look at. I want to look at everything out there that's available, you know, and get as much information as I can to go as deep down the rabbit hole as I can, because, you know, when you're sitting here talking about something that's, you know, this big, I remember, interestingly enough, I watched the meeting back when the police department was in here and they were talking about consolidating the police department or eliminating the police department, and I watched that whole thing go down. I mean, it's a big thing, you know, and that went down, and I'll tell you what, I think our residents are pretty happy that they do have their own individual police department. Fire department's a little bit different than the police department, a little bit, but I need as much information as I can, and I don't want to put boundaries on what we get back. If we go and do this study, I want A to Z, and to be able to read all the information, get with both the chiefs, let them read all the information, and kind of see what they have to say, see what my gut's telling me, and, you know, kind of figure out where we go from there. So I don't really want to put any expectations on it other than I want to study everything.
Mr. Meade.
I came in on the tail end of the police consolidation, and there was overwhelming community support for the police department. It was unique in that there was a quantifiable option in front of the council. It was that the sheriff could provide these services for this price, and then this is what it was costing us. And then some budget items were changed, and I think that most of those kind of came back into the police budget over time, but nonetheless, it was a difficult time, as you saw through the videos. But there was, my point is, there was you could quantify what they were doing. It was this many officers they were going to do for this dollar amount of services. We had exactly what the police budget was, so it provided a way to really make a comparison at that point in time. So it was pretty specific. I'm sorry.
Mr. Walker. And if she's found what, started that conversation.
Okay, there's a provision of the charter that provides that council can basically change any department of the city at all by ordinance. However, there's an exception for police and fire if one of those departments was to be completely discontinued. And in that case, the council would need either a unanimous vote or a referendum.
Thank you, ma'am.
But the council could reduce the budget.
Correct.
And keep the department.
Yes.
And take the police, for example. They could reduce the budget to $100,000 or $100 and bring in. So it doesn't say that it can't be done. It just says it's the
There's
department.
no restrictions on making changes. It was just completely discontinued.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Walker.
David, I appreciate you bringing it, and I appreciate the conversations about the police, because I've spent some time on that, but dealing with just an open conversation about the fire departments, you know, just curious why it's just those two and not, you know, our neighbors just out here to our east on the island, and you know, from just a plain old simple It's like, why don't we have Okaloosa County Fire Department? And when I ask that question and get some feedback, it's, you know, nothing personal. It doesn't matter if it's Crestview or Destin or anybody else. It's the typical, whether it's a merger or acquisition or else, people are fearful of losing their position and or sometimes their benefits. I understand that our union, our fire department's union is very strong, and what I mean by that is that it's more beneficial to the firemen. I'm not saying that's right, wrong, or indifferent, but so I could imagine our guys not wanting to, you know, maybe be merged with, acquired from, or whatever you want to call it, in an organization that would pay them less benefits, retirement, coverage, and that kind of stuff. So those are the real elephants in the room when you start dealing with trying to make people come together. Somebody's got to give up a little bit, I think. Somebody's got to give a little bit, but I've just never understood why it's not Okaloosa County myself. I know you brought it up on those two, and by all means study it, and like Travis said, we'd love to see it. We could look at them, get input from all of the people, men and women, and input over there from each department, and go from there. Just take just a minute, since both of you brought it up, and it's the police department. It's all I've spoken with Chief Beige about this. I've spoken with Sheriff Aiden about this, and it's something I just like exploring because it's interesting. It's each time I brought it up with people in the public, I generally get one kind of response, and it's like, well, they get, you know, because we pay, city taxpayers pay our money up to the bucket in the county, and from that bucket they pay the sheriff's department. So we pay for the sheriff's department. And they say, well, you know, if you're up here on racetrack, you need us. And I said, well, that's true, but nobody in the county pays for my police. But when they're coming down here, they get our services. You see what I'm saying? I want someone, I mean, I'm interested in finding out how I can have county residents subsidize my police force, which we won't, because we've been subsidizing theirs since the inception of this city. Our county tax dollars pays for the sheriff, but the county residents do not pay for our city police. So I found it interesting. I don't know the answer to it yet, but I've parked it there for a little while because it makes sense that we have, since they get the use of our services, why do county residents not pay for our police department? I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
We do get to use county services within the city, though. We have the choice of calling sheriff. I'm sure you know that. We can call the sheriff or the police department.
Yeah, I've called the sheriff on, I had a break-in, I had a burglary in my truck, in my driveway, and I called the sheriff, and I kind of walked through that whole process, and I'd rather it go to, you know, it should be better handled at the city. And then that's when, I mean, bringing that up, I've often said, you know, you're going down Mooney Road. We've got city on one side, the county on the other one, and I asked the question, well, if somebody breaks in on the city side, a burglar, and they document it in the city, and then the county gets one on the other side of the street, and they do it, each one of them go, huh, we just only had one. Chief Beige?
Yes, sir.
Is there a shared database? 211 Mooney Road gets burglarized Thursday night. 215 across the street gets burglarized Friday night. Do the two departments convey that? Is there a database where you guys can see that together?
There is a shared database that you can run addresses through to see what the other agencies have done, but it would take some initiative from the responding officer or deputy to make that linkage. Bigger cases are rolled out between the two departments, and we exchange flyers constantly on email to keep each other aware of what's going on across the jurisdictional lines. And then we also have monthly meetings between the agencies. So if there's any major cases or trends or anything else, we would get that information at the monthly meetings. But I can tell you probably on a daily, or if not daily, every other day, we are exchanging crime bulletins between Fort Walton, the Sheriff's Office, Niceville, Valpy. So there is a concerted effort to share that information between the agencies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other question, comments from council?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'd like to kind of get this back on the fire side of the house. Just to kind of reiterate, I don't like to get specific and measurable sometimes, but the goal is to evaluate the most effective way to provide fire services inside the city of Fort Walton Beach. And there's a lot to unpack to this. And from a morale standpoint, to dollars, to services, and those kind of things. I don't want to spend a lot of tonight, and again, I'll stay as late as we need to, but there's so much information that only that study can tell us. And kind of a little bit more background. I think it was last legislative session of the year before. I mean, there's some impacts for now that anytime a property is to annex in the city of Fort Walton Beach, I believe it was last legislative session now where the statute has changed, where instead of just giving funds back to the special fire district for 4 years, I believe it's grown to, let's say, 7 or 8. So that, from a growth and a planning perspective, we need to figure out and evaluate what's the most effective way for us to continue to grow as a city, but also the most effective way to provide fire services. And I'm not limited, and I appreciate Travis's feedback on whatever the best ways would be to provide, not to limit anything. I mentioned just those 2 agencies just because I know those 2 agencies provide services for the city of Fort Walton Beach. I mean, we can't really legislate what happens outside of here. Like, yeah, in theory, we got a lot of broken up fire districts and fire programs that are going on throughout the south end and the north end and the whole county as well. But what we can impact here, as well as too, doing some research in this. It was a priority in the 1991 Fort Walton Beach Chamber of Commerce, to fire consolidation services. And I think looking at that was because of the growth and some of the things that have continued on since the 90s as well. So for that reason, again, Mayor, if you're okay continuing to, any questions anybody else has, but again, so we continue to stay specific on what the goal and objective would be, is to be the most highly effective way to provide fire services inside the city of Fort Walton Beach.
Mayor.
Mr. Alvarado.
So a couple of things after listening to everyone else's comments. I think that one of the main reasons that we wouldn't want to reach out to every fire district in the county would be because we're the ones paying for this hypothetical study. And if we wanted our taxpayers to fund the best way for Crestview or for Destin or for Okaloosa Island to have their fire services run, I think our taxpayers would probably take issue with that. Now, if they wanted to contribute to a study, those fire districts and those taxpayers wanted to contribute to a study that we said, hey, we're putting a study together and we just want to, once and for all, finally solve this problem because we've got all these special districts and all these maps, and we've got all these people involved, as Councilman Walker said, with different benefits and different ranks and pay plans and everything else, and you guys want to sign on to this study as well, and we'll figure this out for our taxpayers because we all have the same goal and we all have the same interests in mind here, and they probably will not do that. But if our goal is to find out how do we best serve the city of Fort Walton Beach with fire services and protection services of EMS, then I think it's a fair thing to do. But again, I want to leave this meeting tonight with a real idea, a real statement to the public and to the fire department to say, here's what we're trying to do, right? And we're having this conversation and that's great. But every time we bring one of these things up, we're going to have another meeting in 2 weeks, right? We're all going to go on with our lives. That department and those people, and potentially the people in the Ocean City Wright Fire Department, are all now thinking about this and talking about this amongst themselves. They're all wondering and speculating, well, what's the city of Fort Walton Beach trying to do? What's going on down there? What are they talking about? And I'm, Councilman Schmidt, not saying I expected that you would have a full resolution written out or a full plan, but that's what this discussion is about. So I am absolutely willing to stay here as late as we need to be here. But I really think that we need to have some kind of direction if we're going to bring this up in public, because again, there's a lot of people's lives and livelihoods involved here. There's a lot of people going to be very concerned about what the next step and next move is from this city council to bring this item up in public and then leave it as, well, let's just talk about it more some other time.
Yeah, they're definitely, that's why I want to see the appetite and see what Mr. Mayor, if I can.
Go ahead.
It's kind of like around the mound. I know we brought up around the mound on every agenda item. I'm going to go ahead and find a spot for this too. When we push forward and continue to support that, there's going to be some parcel owners, there are going to be some folks curious, man, this might hurt me, or this might help me. A lot of unknowns of the growing pains of what the around the mound do, but we just know it will make a positive change. I'd like to compare that to this study, which hopefully will take some action after this. That in growing, there's going to be some growing pains. You know, from a morale perspective, I'm completely sensitive to that. But when we grow, we got to figure out what direction and how we're going to grow. And I think if I'm reading between the lines appropriately, you're ready to see some action, and so that we continue to take the next steps. Because like Around the Mound, we'll be taking many more steps throughout the process until the Around the Mound project is completely done. Right. Tonight's action, if the majority does support the action that I'd like to take, there'll be more meetings to discuss getting an RFP on what vendor. And then after that, the vendor comes back and presents the evaluation. Then after that, there's a max, you know what I mean? So there'll be more. And throughout this process, I want to continue to be sensitive of morale, but that not allowing that to be the factor to keep me from wanting to continue to evaluate it. And not alleging that that's the factor that's keeping you from wanting to study it. So that's what I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Mr. Berry.
Let me clarify it, not only in my mind, but for the public that's listening. You know, when we say consolidation, are we speaking annexing or consolidation where we all profit? The Ocean City Fire Department and the Fort Walton Beach Fire Department. Because that's completely different. Consolidating and annexing is two different animals. So would you clarify that for me, please?
Yeah, my understanding, annexing is when a property owner wants to annex into the city. Consolidation is like when two different departments or two different programs consolidate into a single program. Is that what you're asking?
You can expand on that, because with annexing, there's money's a consideration.
Correct. Anytime anyone annexes inside the city of Fort Walton Beach, City of Fort Walton Beach is required to pay back that special fire district a portion of that millage, a portion of that ad valorem, up until I think it's like 6 or 7 years. Used to be 4. Yeah, but real quick before you get to explaining. Okay. So that when that happens, Ocean City Right continues to get funding to support their program, but the city's not getting funding to support fire.
Correct.
So which is kind of one of the convictions of coming around here, that we need to figure out through evaluation, through a study, of the best way to provide fire services. But
so that local bill that was passed says we'd have to pay on their current millage for 10 years.
10 years, thank you.
Yes, and their current millage is 2.75, which means the city can collect the rest. The consolidation would look at 3 different aspects. What it would look like for Ocean City to come into Fort Walton Beach, each city of Fort Walton Beach, not the property, just the department. Or what it would look like for Fort Walton Beach, go into that special district and be the Ocean City special district. Or we create our own, a separate district and call it something else. Right now, the city, Fort Walton Beach, the millage rate is the millage rate. If we become a special district, or if we consolidate to a special district, now that's an added millage. So the study is going to answer all those questions of, it costs X to run Ocean City, it costs X to run Fort Walton Beach, how much would the millage have to be to run both those departments throughout the city and the greater Fort Walton Beach area that's in the county? Or how much would it cost the city how much do they have to charge? Because even if they come into the city of Fort Walton Beach, city of Fort Walton Beach could charge the greater Fort Walton Beach a millage rate to run that service. I hope that clarifies something.
It's getting clearer, but it's not quite there yet.
Okay. I'm happy to answer anything if you got anything specific.
Pardon?
I'm happy to answer any question if you have something specific.
Well, how would it benefit them? why are you even considering consolidation versus staying with us?
Well, let me ask you, this is not something I brought forward.
Thank you.
This is something Councilman Schmidt.
That's why I wanted to interrupt you quick. This is something that I brought to the agenda to figure out on our council, on our board, if there's any appetite, and hear it a little bit, a motion to see if any action will be taken to evaluate the best way to provide fire services in City of Fort Walton Beach. So this is nothing Chief Morgan.
Okay, well, I just wanted to clarify that, because right now, we're not looking for? We respond to each other, you know, whether it be the island or Destin or Fort Walton or Ocean City, right? If we need help, you guys are all working together.
Correct, we work very well
But I
together.
can't remember the.
And if we were one department, we'd still work really well. I've said it before, I said to Councilman Schmidt, we met, Fort Walton provides a great service, Ocean City provides a great service, the island provided a great service. If we were all one, we'd still provide a great service. You know, we're not, you know, Councilman Walker, we're not really afraid of losing our jobs because the City of Fort Walton Beach actually starting pay is lower. We pay more in insurance and we pay higher retirement percentage. So, you know, we're not really afraid of anything. The only thing that would consolidate into one chief maybe. But it's got its benefits, but it's got its cons as well. Anything other than the City of Fort Walton Beach is going to be adding millage to the City of Fort Walton Beach citizens. So you still got the city millage, and then you have your fire service millage, like the county pays now.
And so how would it benefit the fire department, and how would it benefit Fort Walton Beach to?
That's what the study's going to tell you.
Yeah, that evaluation will tell us a lot of this as we get a little bit more in the weeds here in a little bit. Sounds like we're somewhere wanting to go, which is fine. Right now, it is nothing but great feedback that I get from both chiefs as well as firemen about our relationship. It has nothing to do with a poor relationship or anything like that at all. It's amazing. And at times it hasn't always been like that. And at times it hasn't always been like that. So where the vision is projecting where there may be a new fire chief one day besides Chief Morgan and Chief Wagner and future chiefs, and maybe the relationship isn't as good as it currently is. Then we have two chain of commands that may or may not have a good relationship deciding where run cards should and should not go. And that's kind of some of the, and again, I know we're really in the weeds now, but we need to evaluate, look at all information of what's the best way to provide fire services inside the City of Fort Walton Beach. Nothing but great things right now currently where the culture is inside the City of Fort Walton Beach's fire department, as well as Chief Wagner and the Ocean City Rights Fire Department. A great culture, but yeah. If there's no other questions, I'd like to take some action if there's no other questions.
I have a question for you, David. Are there companies you're aware of that do this type of study?
So that's a great question. So in a motion, to answer your question, I'm not aware of them, but alongside Chief Morgan and Chief Wagner, working with our city attorney and city manager, I think an RFP would help find those.
I know that. Yeah, there are companies that do that. One being Matrix, who I spoke with. It's not going to be a fast process. You know, once you do the RFP, however long that takes to get it, then the actual study is going to be 6 to 8 months long. And it's going to cost, as of a year ago, 6 to 8 months, it cost about $50,000. And it's probably going up about 20%, I imagine, so it's going to be about $60,000 or $70,000. It's going to take about 6 to 8 months to get the final product after the RFP is completed and you actually select a vendor.
Thank you, sir. Answer the question.
Chief Morgan, you still feel the same way you did a few months back when you came in here and said that you would like to see this get done and get resolved one way or another?
Yeah, if it's a constant question of the council, yeah, I'd like to put it in bed. Now, I can go on record to say I think financially it's going to come back too expensive to do.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done, I mean, Santa Rosa County did it, they want to do it, and it came back too expensive. But as long as the council and the citizens are willing to pay that extra expense, you know, it could be a great thing.
I think it'd be good to put the bid out. I'm with you. I love our department, both of them. I love our city of Fort Walton Beach, but I do get asked about a lot, and whether I know it was in the 1991 Chamber magazine, but obviously it's been talked about for a long time. It'd be cool to get some resolution to put a bid, as long as you feel the same way. I support that.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Yes.
So
if we are to move forward with some sort of study, and I don't know who I'm asking this question to, I don't even know if it's a question, but whoever pays for this study, I mean, we've all heard this in the past, you know, you pay someone to do a study for you, and the study comes back and looks like you were right. It's great. It's a great idea. Or, no, sorry, that's a really bad idea. Well, who paid them to do the study? So who's their boss? Who hired them? Who paid them? So I would really like to see this study funded from both departments. If we're studying what's going to provide the best services to the city of Fort Walton Beach, because again, we sit up here as the 7 elected officials that represent 22,000 people, business owners, visitors, taxpayers, etc. Those are our people, and so that's the ultimate question is provide them the best service, how to do that. So if we're saying fire services is part of the question in the equation, there's another part of that equation, because Ocean City Right Fire District surrounds our city, in some cases goes right through the middle of it, as we've heard evidenced, and most of us know that these guys provide services back and forth all over the place. So number one, if both departments are on board to do this study, and both departments and both entities, the city and the fire control district, are willing to put some skin in the game and pay for that study, and then also both choose the outcome of who's going to conduct the study, meaning everybody's comfortable with who's doing this study, no one's influencing anything, everyone has an opportunity to be heard and speak to these people. I mean, you're talking about something here too, that ultimately if it comes back and says, you know what would be really great is if this was just all one fire district and it was called the Fire Guys Are Cool District. And in this district, you know, here's going to be the thing, and it would save all these taxpayers money, and that would be really great. Well, then awesome. I think then everybody's happy, and we can have it the way we want it. I shouldn't say everybody's happy, because everybody wouldn't like that name. But all in all, that would accomplish the goal. I just want to make sure that before we go forward with something, that everybody's on the same page, and that everyone needs to have some skin in this game too. Everyone needs to have a say and a stake. Everyone needs to be on the same level. And if we as a city can like commission a study and say, here's our money, tell us whether we're right or not, you know, it's probably going to be right. So like, I would just really like to hear all that before we get up to handing a bill to the governor and saying, hey, will you redo this special district that only you can change? Fair?
Yep, and I did ask Chief Wagner to come tonight, but he's out of town, he's on vacation.
Okay.
So he wasn't able to come. Now, per my last conversation with him, he did say, even though he's willing to participate actively as a participant, him and a couple of the commissioners he spoke with is not willing to fund any of it.
So then again, I feel like because of that, we're really just not getting the full information. Because we say we commission a study, so then what does it say? It says Fort Walton Beach is a great fire department, and it would save everybody money if it was all Fort Walton Beach. And we recommend that you go to the governor and tell the governor, hey, sorry, the Ocean City Right Fire Control District no longer exists. So what are they going to say? Oh yeah, actually, you know what, we agree with that, that's great. No, like there's going to be a whole thing. So what did we accomplish in that scenario? Not really anything other than having this consolidation study tell us that we're doing it the best way. Conversely, it might say the other thing. So I just really think it would be the best possible thing to get everybody involved and everybody on board. And if you're not willing to put any money into that, I'm not saying that we have a price or any number of things. What if it's only $50,000 and it's $25K out of their budget? Maybe they'd be willing to do it. Maybe they think it's more. I don't know. But I'm definitely willing to move forward on it. I just want everybody to be involved and on board, and so we get a fair, rational study out of our taxpayers' money.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Chief Morgan, I remember this was before you were chief, but I was talking to a member of the department about this probably about 3.5, 4 years ago. And he indicated to me that this is something that potentially the unions could participate in and pony money up in, and the I guess the International Firefighters Association could participate in. Can you?
Yeah, it's possible if the unions asked for it. They asked for it years ago in the early 90s, and they helped, and then it just kind of fell apart. The international did, so I don't know if they would be willing to pony up and do it again after that instance, at least the international. I can, I don't do the union books, but I don't foresee them having that much money. But as far as being active participants in the design, I know they would be willing to, because they're trying to benefit, trying to make the best as well.
Mr. Walker.
Listening to Nick primarily on that, I mean, and I don't know what it is, but if it were to happen that these two departments came together in some way, we've got the Greater Fort Walton Beach Fire Department minus Okaloosa Island, which is Fort Walton Beach. It's like, well, why aren't we, have we talked to the island group?
We have, and they have sent me a response that they are not interested.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
So again, those questions were brought up myself, Nick, through this due process on, putting money in everyone mutually, even the unions as well. Because it would further the process of figuring out, and like Chief Morgan mentioned, the island wasn't interested, and if the board of the Ocean City Right is not interested in commissioning this, at this point, that's why I got it on to the agenda, to see if do we want to do this, and that's really kind of the background, and I just ready to take some action so we can learn more about the study or what's inside the study. Like also too, I want to highlight what Chief Morgan mentioned, but it's to include not just like us commissioning a study to talk about how great our Fort Walton Beach Fire Department is, but it's alongside Chief Morgan and Chief Wagner working alongside our city manager to find vendors, to get an RFP that both agencies' chiefs are intimately working together on, to find out, to work with the consultant, the vendor that evaluates this information. So it's not biased towards the city of Fort Walton Beach just commissioning a study with our fire department, the best way to do it, but to include both agencies working together during the study process to get us information. I just wanted to highlight how important it is to include everybody, which was, I think I heard from you, which I highly respect. I want to make sure all agencies are included that want to be included. So, anyhow.
All right, anyone else?
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to entertain a motion if now's the time.
All right, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to include our Chief Morgan as well as Chief Wagner with Ocean City Right and the City of Fort Walton Beach, alongside our city manager and city attorney, to put out an RFP and bring it back to council to include all options and to not limit it to the City of Fort Walton Beach expanding inside of Ocean City Right expanding into the City of Fort Walton Beach, as well as creating a new district, and bring that back to council for award and approval.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, and moved by Councilman Schmidt, seconded by Councilman Jeter, to have the two chiefs, Chief Morgan, Chief Wagner, plus our city manager, city attorney, put together an RFP to see whether consolidation of our department with the other department, the Ocean City Right Department, makes financial sense, or makes sense.
To evaluate the best way to provide fire services inside the City of Fort Walton Beach, to not limit it to the City of Fort Walton Beach expanding into the fire district, Ocean City Right to expand into the City of Fort Walton Beach, or creating a new district. And again, not limited to those three. If there's more options, like Councilman Smith mentioned, that there's some other better ways or other agencies that want to jump on, but to not limit it to those three. To find out and evaluate alongside both agencies the best way to provide fire services for the growing area of the Greater Fort Walton Beach
Okay? I think we got that. I can't reiterate it all, but we got it recorded. So,
Yeah, no, my long
I think
motions.
we got it.
Smart motions.
Further discussion of the council. Mr. Mead.
I'm going to support it for similar reasons, not that I'm forecasting that I want a consolidation or not, or any of the sort, but this seems to have come up, and I agree that would create much heartburn and consternation if I was within the department. So I like the idea of putting this matter to rest and putting it behind us. So I'll support it.
All right, thank you. Other comments from council?
Mr. Mayor, I believe I'll support it as well, but I think it's a two-step process, and we've commented on it, that I'll support the RFP to go out, but when it comes back, after the chiefs have met and that everyone's met, if Ocean City Right is the only other entity involved in this and they're not willing to put any skin in the game, I'm not sure that I'm going to put it over on Fort Walton Beach single taxpayers to pay for a study that might benefit Ocean City Right as well. So I'll support this motion, but when it comes time to funding the study, if such a study comes, I'm not committing to that.
Thank you, sir. Other comments?
Yeah, Mayor, I'll support the motion as well. I just want to move forward with something on this to provide some sort of resolution. I agree that it would be great if we could, have everybody involved, and all the scenarios that I laid out probably ad nauseum or earlier, but I do think it's important that when we bring these kind of things up, that we do reach some sort of a, hey, here's the clear next step of what our intentions are as a city council, to direct a department as large as our fire department. So I appreciate the motion, and I will support it so that we can see what's out there and see what the next steps would be.
Thanks, sir.
Maybe just for clarification, so what we would do as a staff, we would issue out an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications, to bring in vendors, whoever submits their qualifications, then we would bring it to council, and they would have a fee associated with that. We would bring that back to council for award, and at that point, you as a council could say, yeah, it's a great price, or no, it's not. And so direction tonight would ask staff to issue out an RFQ to get an organization to come in and bid on this type of study.
Thank you for that clarification. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Mr. Barry?
I like what you just said, because I'm concerned that Ocean City Right is not wanting to, put skin in the game.
Pay to play.
Pay to play.
Let's just say.
I'm reading all these things.
That's awful.
They're not willing to whisper in our ear.
Yeah. So
They've been
if you
whispering.
whisper in my ear, then I forget. So, but this is what I want. I want us to all work together, and not just, because if we're just going to want to, that tells me something. So let's take one step at a time to the Q. What is it? RFQ.
Request for qualifications.
Yeah, and then go from there. Because I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Council, please vote. Does pass unanimously. Thank you, council. That'll bring us to item 14, city manager reports.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. Our next meeting, just for the calendars, is May 21st. So we only have one meeting in May. That's at 6 p.m. here, May 21st. So we got a little bit of a break in there. May 3rd is the first concert at the park at the Landing. So that's just right around the corner. This Thursday, April 25th, it's a lunch and field day for the city employees at the rec complex. So we're trying to interact with some of the employees and feed them a sandwich and have some good bonding there for our staff. So it should be a good time. And the last thing, I was approached by Bridgeway. They have sent in a legislative funding request for a pilot program. It would be for a 12-month pilot program for homeless outreach specialists to assist with law enforcement. It's an appropriation that's in front of the governor now. They were just asking if the city of Fort Walton Beach would show support with just a letter signed by the mayor to to say that we would support that. And the pilot program runs through Ridgeway. They would assist in our law enforcement with our homeless issues here in Fort Walton Beach. And I told them that I would bring it forward to you all tonight to see if you would support it.
Mr. Jeter.
I have heard of that program and did a little bit of work. This is supposed to assist your new code compliance officer in a way that is still achieving the ultimate goal of elimination of vacancies. This is just another level of assistance.
Yes, it would probably more directly help the quality of life officer or community police officer, but it would also help the crime prevention and quality of life officer for Code 2. We had somebody before from the Homeless Housing Alliance back in probably 2020, 2021 that did a very similar job. They went out with our officers would take them to locations where the chronic homeless would hang out, and they would try to give them direct services right then and there versus referring them somewhere. They could input them right into services right on the street. So we look at it as a very good addition and an additional service that we could provide to try and really get people off the street. We don't see any real negative to the Ridgeway proposal.
No, I see it as an addition as well. I also see it as a pilot program. So this is a year long. This is not costing us anything. But if it doesn't work, we can obviously part ways because it's still, we won't get on this meeting, but I do intend to get back on it next meeting. The elimination of the services on First Street. I think there's a lot of changes going on down there. There's been some changes in some staff at some different facilities down there. There's been some changes on the HHA side, so I think we need to continue on the same path we're on. We have the momentum. Let's not stop, and I think this will help us in that momentum.
It will. Do we need a motion for me to be able to sign up? Or do we have consensus?
Is anyone against this?
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to see the letter, but if Bryce is in support of this, and as much as he's championing this.
I was not a fan of it in the beginning,
Oh,
but I've done my research, and on a pilot program assistance type manner, I support it.
All right.
All right, thank you. We're good. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Peters?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, State Attorney, Ms. Cobb.
I don't have anything, thank you.
All right. Okay, last time around, let's see, this time we start with
Mr. Berry.
Mr. Berry.
Mr. Berry, thank you for the bathrooms getting started at Jet Homes pickleball courts. They're excited about that. Non-residents as well as the residents. Also, I showed them the pictures of your presentation about what's going on, and thank you for ordering new benches for the game.
Daniel's guys did a good job.
Yeah, and I go, golly, you guys have a long Christmas wish list here. but they are having fun, they're enjoying it, and they're asking more questions, and they're excited about Ferry Park, and they didn't know that they had volleyball over here at our recreation center. So a lot of things are going on. So that's good. But they're busy. I noticed that they're busier at Jet and Holmes than they are at Mooney. Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Mr. Jeter.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you as well. You said in the workshop last week that you've been here for almost 20 years now. We've got more projects going on now than almost your 20 years combined. So thank you to staff for all of these wonderful projects. Can't wait to see them all come to fruition and get done. I'm excited.
Thank you. Mr. Meany.
Nothing further tonight, thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Just making sure, Chris, we still got on the radar, bring back some Commerce Technology Park. Okay, coming up. I know we only have one meeting in May. Okay, all right, good deal. Thank you, sir. That's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith.
Recently got roped into coaching T-ball. Boy, that's like herding stray cats, holy cow. But I had a question as it relates to the fields out in, because they're on the intramural field in Ferry Park is where we're at. And trying to keep these kids all in a location's pretty tough. Do we have any fencing that you can put up for the fields? Because there is nothing. Balls are going everywhere. I mean, kids are going everywhere. Teams are getting mixed up. Like, there's no delineation between kind of the fields. And I don't know any of these kids, so I probably took a couple from the other team and coached them the other day. I don't know. But, you know, I feel like it could help to have some kind of delineation between the teams, because all you're doing right now is we got paint on the ground and there's 4 fields, and then there's lines for the soccer games that are being played on there and stuff like that. So I don't know if there's any soft fixing you can put up for like a center field wall or, you know, something like that. I feel like I'm gonna lose a kid or walk off with somebody else's kid. So, but
Park home runs for all.
I gotta go chase the balls. I mean, hey, go get that ball. They're like, oh, look, there's a bird. I mean, you know, it's crazy. It is the most fun, frustrating thing I've ever done.
Temporary fencing on these fields back here, it would be something like that.
Okay, all right, cool. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Quick compliment yet again to the app on problems in the community. I've seen several of them online getting addressed. I addressed one at a trash can down by my office. It was blocking the road. It was parked on the sidewalk, and then it got canceled. It didn't say, well, I didn't register, but anyway, it didn't get taken care of. But the next day I wrote it in there and pointed out that it was blocking the handicap access, and it was the next morning it was taken care of. So thank you guys there for that. Nicole, accounting software, I missed the last meeting, the workshop. Have we got it in place? Is it we can log in?
We're like 98% there. We're waiting on a little bit of IT issues still. But I got to show everybody kind of, I was like, it was your Super Bowl. You missed it.
Did she say Super Bowl?
Yes, she did.
Dang it. I'll go back to watch it.
Yeah, there's just a few in the revenue items. The IT people kind of mislabeled some of the accounts. We're having them fix it. They have to do it on ClearGov side. We can't do it. So we're just waiting for that, and then it's good. So
thank you. And then Terry, insurance update. Where are we at on the schedule, the process of getting ready to go out for reevaluating, reviewing, and re-estimating all that?
Yeah, my goal is to get it out in May. I've got preliminary RFPs drafted up, and I'm actually going to meet with both the insurance carriers next month. And I should have pretty much April sets aside my health insurance, so I know my rates and all my numbers. That should be ready to go out in June. So the timing is pretty well perfect in terms of getting everything out and getting competitive bids back on both insurance.
Let me ask you this, because this is what kind of brought it up, as you and I think we talked about. I've seen some reports and studies out of Valparaiso and some others about their departments, and digging in a little bit there, I found and heard that I was thinking about the study over here. There are firms out there that can review, they're specialists in the field, and they can review everything that's in place, maybe adjusting some of those not the premiums, but the deductibles, maybe not covering some things. I think there's some companies out there that can look at our overall coverage.
We've used brokers before to kind of take a look at how we've done it. I haven't included it in this one, so I'd have to kind of change the scope.
Not necessarily a broker. It's not a broker. It's a specialist.
It's a specialist that, I say broker, but it's a specialist that this is what they do. Gallagher, there's some different companies out that overlook your process. Correct.
So you're saying by the end of May, you will have, well, we're there.
Yeah, we're here. It's in April. My goal is to have it out in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. All right, thanks. That's all I have.
Mr. Alvarado?
Nothing further, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. And I'm the same way. We are